Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second official Duel of the Debates. I am Brandon the Awesome. This is my channel, and here is my opponent, God's Games and Geekiness.
Hello, how's everyone doing?
Impromptu stream today, but last night, God Games and Geekiness challenged me to a debate over TCW. This should be one for the books, folks.
Yeah, so basically, my opinion is just that TCW, even though it's crap, is canon to the EU because of all the tie-in material.
And I would counter that with saying it cannot be canon because TCW constant retcons way too much of the EU and also goes against the movies themselves. Therefore, it cannot be canon in any capacity whatsoever.
All right, so do you want to start with the movies themselves?
Yes, let's start there.
All right, so I'm assuming, so contradictions, I'm thinking right now, you mean like the dialogue with Anakin and Dooku and then Grievous and Obi-Wan?
Obviously.
Yep. And then what else would you say is contradiction there?
Well, the way it's established, Anakin, Obi-Wan and Grievous only know each other by reputation. They don't know each other because they fought before. Because Grievous talks like this is the first time he's fighting, because he says, I was taught in your Jedi arts by Count Dooku. Why would he say that to Obi-Wan if he's fought Obi-Wan before?
Yeah, I totally get that point of view, and I definitely agree that when it came out, it was not meant to be that they had met. But I think like it's such a minor thing, and then if you have to think like, okay, when Vader and Luke met in Empire Strikes Back, they had previously met in other material.
Well, to be fair, the Marvel comics are pretty outdated. There's a reason they got moved to being secondary canon.
Splinter of the Mind's Eye.
That one hasn't dated too well, to be honest. And honestly, that Vader only lost that because he tripped over his own arm.
Right. Yeah. But I think that the meeting is confirmed.
The meeting is good. I mean, I would say it's a bit wishy-washy there. It is a
well,
little
then what about Vader's quest?
Vader's quest.
Yeah, it was a 4-issue miniseries where he learns Luke's name.
That's not necessarily a big contradiction, but it kind of does. I do believe that got referenced in the Vader's biography, but
yeah,
that's not necessarily too big of a problem.
Well, they did meet at the end of the thing. At the end of this, I think it was in the final issue. They see each other.
I haven't read that yet, so I would not know because I don't have access to that yet.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. It's not as egregious because the dialogue isn't like, oh, I last saw you on Mimban or whatever. It doesn't say anything, that would imply that. But I just think it's such a minor issue that.
Well, as far as I'm aware, there's not quite too much dialogue in the original trilogy that directly contradicts that material. But that material does later get written off as you kind of pick and choose because, the Marvel comics and Splinter of the Mind's Eye were working off of like very little compared to what the prequels in the EU had.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I mean,
so it is a case of it's dated material because it couldn't help itself.
Sorry. I mean, I think they made Splinter of the Mind's Eye comic adaptation, didn't they, in the 90s?
Yes, I do believe there is a Splinter of the Mind's Eye comic adaptation because I know of that from the Comics Companion, but beyond that, I don't know like what's changed or anything like that.
Yeah,
again, I would have to check.
I still think they meet in that companion, and I'm pretty sure there's some other EU Rebellion era stories. There's some of them from like the news strips.
I'm not so sure about the newspaper strips, but again, since that came out like around the 70s, that could also be considered S canon, meaning that it's kind of like pick and choose which one directly because again it got overwritten by the EU when the EU kicked off properly in the 90s. So it's like, but with Grievous and Obi-Wan, it's like they definitely are indicated like there's no like these two haven't really fought before.
Yes, so right, because Obi-Wan doesn't say anything except hello there, and then he says, "I've been trained in your arts by
Yeah,
Count
in
Dooku."
your Jedi arts. And with
Yeah,
Anakin and Obi-Wan, it doesn't really make sense for them to fight each other constantly because you have because it is supposed to be a monumental moment of Anakin being able to beat Dooku, considering he lost the first time they fought.
yeah.
And then
I,
it's
I mean,
Anakin executing Dooku.
I always thought that he was when they said that line, they were referring to that first encounter as like, okay, we're coming full circle.
Yeah, this time we do it together. I was just about to say the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't personally think that like says that. Oh, I've never conflicted with him in the past, and like I know he's fought the doppelganger of Dooku in New Droid Army, but
Hmm. Well, yeah, but those are just like a couple of minor contradictions with the movies. Ahsoka's existence throws everything into complete chaos.
okay,
Um,
okay. For the movies, if we're talking about Ahsoka's existence, I don't see why they needed to reference her in the movie.
well, again, it's like considering all Anakin's gone through and the fact that he trained a Padawan, you'd think that would get brought up in favor of like him proving himself worthy, because it's like he considers it an insult that he didn't get to be a master on the Jedi Council. And it's like, I trained a literal Padawan. Why am I not a Jedi Master?
Yeah, okay, I get where you're coming from for that, but didn't she didn't even make it to knighthood, did she?
I I think she was considering knighthood. She was being considered for knighthood, and then the whole stupid arc happened where the Jedi Temple gets bombed, and then she leaves.
Yeah.
Like
I
even then,
just
you
think
can't really pin that on Anakin. That's not even Anakin's fault.
no, it's not his fault, but then at the same time like, they don't mention some of the other stuff he did. I know in the micro series they mention all the trials he faced when
Yeah, you'd think like, especially again,
but they don't
if
mention any trials in the movie, so why would they mention his Padawan?
well, it seems like a major part of his character that gets over that just doesn't get mentioned, doesn't it? It seems odd.
Yeah, I will agree that it's odd,
Not to
but
mention that again, it makes no sense for him to have a Padawan when the Jedi don't trust him to begin with, and they know that he has problems with attachment.
right. So the explanation I've seen given in official like reference books is that Ahsoka was given to Anakin to learn that when she becomes a Jedi Knight to let go, and that will hopefully help him get rid of his other dangerous attachments.
I feel like they could have easily done that if there wasn't a war going on at the moment, because I feel like giving Anakin, a Jedi who already was raised up via unconventional means, a Jedi who already struggled with his attachment, is given a Padawan in the middle of a war.
Yeah, well, the lots of different Jedi were assigned Padawans because their masters were slain, and
Well, again, they were slain. Ahsoka was just assigned to Anakin. She wasn't like the Padawan of a former master who got slain.
right. I guess that she was had the same qualities as Anakin, and they were hoping to tame them both. You know, they will have to learn that their recklessness doesn't work together. So one will have to learn to, become responsible.
Too bad that didn't really happen. Now, did it?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, bad writing is bad writing, but it's not contradictory.
It is, because it's like, again, it makes no sense for Anakin to have a Padawan,
Now, if they had,
considering
sorry, go ahead.
how the Jedi Order already saw him. They viewed him as, being dangerous. They saw him as, they didn't want to trust him with too much responsibility. I mean,
R-
again, in the micro series, it's like Obi-Wan had his hesitations with Anakin being given command of their space forces because he didn't believe Anakin was ready for that kind of responsibility.
But well, then he vouched for him to be granted, to become a knight.
But that was later on, and that was like near the end of the war. It
Right,
was
but
Palpatine who put Anakin in charge of the Space Forces because it was Palpatine further manipulating Anakin,
right, but the like having Ahsoka would have also been near the end of the war.
which also but that doesn't make sense because from what I've heard, the TCW takes place 2 months after the Battle of Geonosis, which also doesn't make any sense considering Anakin suddenly looks and acts based more like Episode 3 Anakin.
Yeah, so that was something I wanted to get into because there have been many conflicting dates, and some sources do throw around 22 BBY, which I don't think is accurate. I've seen others that have 21. So like the Star Wars Annual 2011, something like that. It said he was knighted in 21, which yeah, it messes with Jedi Trial, but it at least moves it to a reasonable spot.
Mm. This is why I really hate TCW. It just mucks everything up.
Oh yeah, like I mean, if we could go back in time and erase it, yeah, but we can't. So I think it's throwing out more content than I think it's doing more damage than good to get rid of it.
Actually, no, we're doing a hell of a lot more good getting rid of it because frankly, we're better off for it.
Well, I just mean like it's like throwing away like what were there like 5 books, like 58 children's books, tons of comic books, like web strips. There was everything. There was a movie.
It's a worthy sacrifice.
I mean, yeah, and you can do that personally in your head canon, but I mean, it's just not recognized by Lucasfilm.
Since when does anybody consider Lucasfilm's word valid these days?
I'm not talking about Disney Lucasfilm. I'm talking about pre-buyout.
Hey, I'm sorry. They set up the tier system. TCW violates G canon. It can't be canon. That's just how it
Well,
works. I don't make the rules. I just enforce them.
so like one line that violates a movie would have the entire project thrown out.
Yes. And it's not even just one line. It's like the clones, again, like the clones, the main centerpiece of this stupid show, are completely go against how they're described in the movie.
Well, they were said to have a certain level of independence.
In terms of combat capability, the
Right, but
only
then
clones that were allowed any form of real independence was ARC troopers and commandos, and that was due to the nature of their jobs.
but the point of them taking names and stuff was to differentiate them from the droids in the eyes of the public.
Yeah, but the reason why clones started getting names was because the Republic started being uncomfortable with the idea of clones being viewed as droids, something that
Right.
TCW never goes into.
Yeah, but if you take it as being set in 21 BBY, by that point they would have been thinking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but then the clones act way too human. And you have clones just deserting the war, you have clones flat out betraying the Jedi, and it got to the point where they actually had to scramble to create the stupid inhibitor chips.
Well, even Dave Filoni said that, Slick, the guy who portrays him was his programming was wrong.
The Camonians are supposed to be the greatest damn cloners in the galaxy. I hardly feel like there would have been an error
Well,
in the damn programming, considering they had 10 years to fulfill the order.
well, the Essential Guide to Warfare says that some clones that weren't up to specs were selected for termination. And then when the Jedi came in, they put that off because they didn't like the idea of killing.
So the Jedi are just made out to be complete idiots.
Well,
Good.
would you
Good
would you
job,
just
TCW.
would you just kill people that had a defect?
I'd certainly try and figure out what's wrong with them, but I certainly wouldn't send them out onto the battlefield.
Right, like he's one that slipped through undetected.
That's just bad writing.
Yeah, like I said, but I mean, what is he like one out of like how many we see? Hundreds?
And this is something that doesn't just happen consistently. I mean, shoot, inhibitor chips just going off early. I'm surprised that doesn't happen more often.
Yeah, I
Again, they
mean,
made the clones far too human for people to take seriously. And
well,
the
I
fact that
think sorry.
they have to scramble to fix everything just showcases how bad TCW on its own is.
Well, I think that you're like clones before the TCW show also did have personality, because think of the narrator from Battlefront 2.
Yeah, but again, he was a standard soldier and he understood what he had to do.
Right, but he also goes like, he's like, it was the screaming, and the screaming I hated. He's like, we didn't like looking in her eyes when we killed her. You think people who had no personality whatsoever wouldn't have feelings one way or the other?
I never said they didn't have personalities, but their personalities are extremely nuanced and neutered. Their independence is pretty much nil. The clones basically were nothing more but living biological droids.
Right, but like even he, by the time you get to the levels on like the Death Star with the Death Star riot, like he's talking about how uh he's mad that they got humiliated, and then he's also talking about in the Battle of Coruscant how he's like, and of course the Jedi got all the credit. Like these seem like things that are like from an independent thinker.
Clones don't even like Jedi in general. That's just something because of how different they are.
Well, that's an independent thought, isn't it?
Yeah, but not enough for him to really act upon.
Well, if they have feelings towards Jedi, that means they're not totally loyal.
And therein lies the problem, isn't it? Again, the clones could not break free or rebel against orders like that.
Well, if you take,
The
well,
average clone unit just couldn't.
I'm just saying that the that certain clones disliking their Jedi is not something that the Kaminoans would want, would they? They would want them to respect their generals.
They respect their generals. That doesn't mean they have to like them.
No, but like there were certain generals that got more leeway, like Ayla Secura. They shot her that many times to make sure she was dead. So there's definitely personal opinion from the clones.
Personal opinion, yes, but there's a difference between personal opinion and actually acting completely out of order.
So what do you mean is out of order?
Again, clones deserting or a clone trooper flat out betraying the Republic, things that they are not programmed to do.
Yeah, I was saying that those weren't basic clones. They were messed up in the code.
Damage control.
Okay, so I mean, you don't think there was any clones on the battlefield who had a malfunction?
The EU never says it. Nope.
But in the EU, we don't go into all of the thousands and thousands of battles in the galaxy.
The only time clones ever really deviated from their programming was if they were left behind and had to adapt.
You talking about that guy from the Darth Vader comic?
There's Cry of Shadows, and then there was one from the General Skywalker two-parter from Star Wars Empire.
Yeah, the Abel, right? I think so.
Yes. They were both the only reason they didn't act like every other clone trooper was because they were stranded or left behind. It's the circumstances around them that forced them to change, not they themselves just decide to change because Filoni feels like it that day.
Right, I get that. I just feel like the natural progression of the clones would be to have more personality. Think because the Jedi are all about the living force, and so they care about the lives. Some do, obviously not all, but some would care to have them. And also, it's just way more convenient to yell names on the battlefield.
True, the names part makes sense, but the Jedi would not have the time to give their clones freaking personalities or allow them to think for themselves when they are in the middle of a damn war.
Well, I don't think they told them to get personalities. I think they just developed after time spending with someone.
Fat lot of good it did considering how many Jedi got killed.
Yeah, I mean, but that goes back to Order 66. Like, I mean, they were gonna do it regardless.
Because a clone is supposed to obey orders regardless of whether or not they agree with it. A clone
Yeah.
trooper is programmed strictly to be completely loyal and to obey orders without question. Something we constantly see clones disobeying throughout TCW.
Okay, well, you mean so your two examples are the deserter and Slick?
There's also Rex disobeying Krell.
When Krell tried to have him killed.
Yeah, but
Krell was
unless
revealed as an acolyte of Dooku,
he wasn't even an acolyte, he wanted to be one.
or the traitor. He was pretty patient with Krell, even though he disliked his tactics. He was patient with him for a long time before he had to kill one of his own people to learn that he's bad.
Yeah, but Rex, unless Rex got the orders to do so, he wouldn't do anything about it, unless again he was an ARC trooper.
Well, yeah, he went through the same training as like Cody.
The same training, but he wasn't designed the same way.
Well, I think he. So, are you saying that only commanders have personalities?
They kind of do, I think. I still have only read a handful of the Clone Wars multimedia project in terms of the comics, and there aren't too many commanders that actually are something of characters in those comics. So like Bly is one. There was it Commander Fell for Voss, who straight up hated him.
Well, there's also, so if we're just talking about rank, there's Captain Jag.
He was the one with Plo Koon, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, he blew up Plo Koon. No questions asked.
right. I'm just saying though that the rank of captain can take names and can have different, individualized armor.
Well, yeah, that only makes sense because of their rank.
Yeah, so Captain Rex is not a contradiction.
Rex disobeying orders is a contradiction, unless he was one of the ARC troopers.
Well, I believe that he got the same training as Cody because that's where he met Cody.
Or was he programmed with the same amount of independence? Because
Well, Cody wasn't programmed like that.
then he wouldn't be able to disobey orders.
Well, okay, so Cody was one of the rank and file troopers until he got selected for ARC programming. So why does he have a personality?
Who does?
Commander Cody?
Well, again, Cody having a personality.
Yeah, because ARC Trooper. So you had the original ARC Troopers, which were specifically modified, and then
I don't think Cody had too much of a personality. He was more of, again, like the standard trooper in terms of his personality.
I mean, yeah, he was more of a legalist, but you can tell from their interaction in Revenge of the Sith that Obi-Wan and Cody have this history of being friends.
Well, friendly camaraderie, yes.
Right, but I mean, even in like.
But again, when Cody got the order, that didn't mean squat. He instantly obeyed orders and went after Obi-Wan.
Well, yeah, well, in the EU, we don't know what Rex did when Order 66 came.
Because Rex is not a character who is canon.
Well, I think Lucasfilm licensing would disagree.
Yeah, well, Lucasfilm licensing doesn't get to have a say now, does it?
You mean the company that made it doesn't get to have a say?
I'm not the one who made it that TCW violates G-Canon, man.
So, okay, so the system hierarchy would work that anything that contradicts it in the below tier, that part gets wiped out. But what can work stays. So just wipe out all the duels between Obi-Wan and Dooku and Grievous and Kenobi, and then the show should be there, right?
Nope.
Why?
Again, the clones, how battle droids are handled, pretty much everything.
So the battle droids.
Oh yeah, and of course
the ever so
infamous shitty Mortis arc, which fundamentally destroys the Force. That's the big one too.
The movies don't go that deep into the Force.
And Mortis completely destroyed the entire philosophy and the point of the 6 movies.
I mean, in your opinion.
Nope. Factual. The light side is balance. The dark side itself is a blight on the Force. It is one putting their own selfish intentions and forcing the Force to serve it. There is no middle entity. There is not a balance between light and dark. The light is balanced. The dark is to be eradicated.
Okay, but
hence why the entire point of the 6 movies is for the Sith to die.
But they never say that the Mortis gods are the Force.
Then why is the sister the representation for the light side, the brother is the representation of the dark side, and the father exists?
Well, weren't they just birthed out of the idea of the Force?
Again, makes no sense because
Well,
the dark side is literally one using their selfish desires and negative emotions to bend the Force to their will.
but don't they imply at the end that there is no balance because the dark side would have tried to take over anyway?
Hence why the dark side needs to be destroyed. But again, that never happens with the Mortis arc. The Mortis arc just makes it that the dark side has a god.
I mean, the dark side definitely did have gods.
People that were as powerful as gods, but not actual gods.
Well, yeah, in the novelization, I think he says, or maybe it's the comics. He says, "By Darth Vader says, by the immortal gods of the Sith."
I'm not so sure about that, but I'd have to check.
I'll look it up right now for you. I think it's in the Marvel run.
Which Marvel? Wait, are you talking the 70s?
Yeah.
Okay, that can be disregarded because that's S canon. Sorry. There goes that point.
You can just pick and choose what you want to disregard from it.
That's kind of how it works with the Marvel comics.
Yeah, but it's anything that contradicts the other stuff.
Unless he says it in one of the other unless he says it in any of the C canon stuff, then I'm sorry, but it's left up to being skeptical at best.
Yeah. So like you would say that like anything in Marvel can be thrown out?
Unless it's directly referenced by the EU itself.
Was that policy still held to the end? Because I know it was S canon before, but eventually they found a way to bring it back into continuity.
Some stuff, not all of it, was brought back.
But if it's not contradicted, then it's not thrown out.
The Sith don't even have immortal gods.
I mean, I would find it hard to believe the dark side does not have a deity on some planet that they worship. You know, there's multiple different cults and sects,
but we never see any mention of a god.
I mean, there's the immortal god king of the Sith, or of Prakith.
Is that C canon?
That's from Darth Bane, Dynasty of Evil. It's Darth and Dedel. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. I haven't gotten to those ones yet.
Well, I don't believe those are actual deities. I believe that those are like just really powerful Force users that basically were almost on the level of a god.
That's fair. But would you consider the Wills to be deities?
We don't know anything about the Wills, to be fairly honest.
Well, I mean, it's from the Journal of the Wills. I believe that Lucas kept that in his canon, right?
The Wills are like casually. The Wills, I do know they were mentioned in the last of the Jedi books that Jude Watson wrote, but again, they were kept like extremely vague.
Yeah,
and again, the idea is that the dark side is evil, and anyone who worships it basically needs to be killed.
And we don't even know if the Mortis gods are actually gods because they could be characters like Telotny. You know that story?
No, I don't.
It was by Alan Moore. Telotny throws a shape. It's like a weird story he wrote where Princess Leia runs into these godlike creatures on this planet.
Marvel Comics?
No, it's from Empire Strikes Back Weekly or monthly, something like that. I know it got reprinted in the Wild Space Omnibus.
I'd have to check into that.
But
anyway, it's like, well,
probably 80s.
Well, the thing is, the Mortis gods got rewritten to being celestial beings in the no, it was
Fate
Legacy
of the Jedi?
of the Force. It was like was it Fate of the Jedi or Legacy of the Force that
I think it's Fate of the Jedi because it's Abeloth, right? They mentioned Abeloth.
I think Abeloth was Legacy. No, Fate of the Jedi had Dark Kaitis. Legacy of the Force
Wait, Legacy of the Force comes after Dark Nest, and that's the one where Jason falls to the dark side.
Okay, so maybe it was Fate of the Jedi. I don't know. I get it mixed up sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I know New Jedi Order for certain was the Vong War.
Right. So is the contradiction here that there are gods in Star Wars, or that there's a balance?
Balance between the light and the dark. Yes, that is a major contradiction. Also, because the Mortis gods, they do try to portray them as like gods of the Force, and also that they can just resurrect someone from the dead.
Okay, but do they say that there's no balance in the movies? Because I know George holds the view that light equals the balance, but they don't say that.
But that is again an overall theme about with Star Wars, that the light equals balance.
Right, but they don't because he says they always say, "Oh, he'll bring prophecy of someone who'll bring balance to the Force," but they don't ever say balance equals the light winning.
They do say that Anakin was supposed to destroy the Sith.
Right,
So
because
basically they spell it out for you that balance of the Force equals killing the Sith.
but then why would George be an executive producer on something that contradicts it?
Because he was
You,
because he was barely involved, and because Dave Filoni slipped things in behind his back.
he slipped a whole arc in behind his back.
We don't honestly know the extent of Filoni's meddling, but we do know that Filoni slipped stuff behind George.
You said that he meets with Filoni once a week, right?
John, yes, he called. Sometimes he didn't. Whoops. Give me a sec. Technical difficulty. No, he half the time it wasn't even visit once a week. It was like a phone call.
Yeah, but even so, he would catch wind that, okay, we're doing this arc about Mortis gods. I mean, the Fate of the Jedi team, Troy Denning caught wind of it and wanted to work with Filoni to connect the two Abeloth and the Mortis gods. So if George was aware of what was going on in the EU at the time, he should have also known that.
It's something that like John said, it was like George was just kind of starting to get phased out because he was getting ready to sell the company.
Well, I just don't think we can see inside his head.
We can't see inside Dave Filoni's head either now, can we?
Okay, but I'm just talking about if George was the executive producer funneling money into a show, then he would probably want big themes like that to be taken seriously.
And yet he didn't. Curious
So George
how
didn't take it seriously,
doesn't look like it. He
but
didn't
it's
take
still
TCW seriously.
so we can casually disregard George's opinion when we don't think it's good.
No, we can casually disregard anything concerning TCW if it contradicts the damn movies. And
Well, I
when
mean,
it's run by somebody who is a known liar who slipped stuff in behind George's back.
so I guess that we should get rid of Attack of or Phantom Menace because it contradicts Empire Strikes Back.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, because Obi-Wan clearly says that Yoda was his master.
Attack of the Clone shows Yoda training younglings. Obi-Wan
Right, that
must
was
have
a
been a
retcon.
youngling at one point.
That was a
Yeah, but
retcon.
it doesn't openly contradict the movie. I'm sorry, but your logic falls apart.
So, but I'm saying that retcon worked, so why can't other retcons work?
Because you would have to basically rewrite all 6 movies just to fit TCW in and disregard huge entire chunks of the EU for it to work. Captain Fordo, Tad Larkin made a good video talking about just how much damage TCW does to the EU.
I get that, but he was taking an approach of he wasn't shifting things in dates, so that's going to obviously cause a lot more problems.
It's more than shifting dates. It's flat out entire character assassinations and entire planets being changed for no reason.
Oh yeah, I mean it's totally stupid, but also some of those planets have gotten explained away by Essential Atlas.
which had to
Like,
come out, and it damage control.
right. So I'm saying it's bad writing, but obviously, why would they do damage control if they didn't see it as being part of EU?
Because they were still trying to operate under the idea of fixing everything under one continuity.
Right.
Which
So
came
they
back
saw it
great.
under one continuity.
I'm sorry, but it doesn't work because TCW retcons the 6 movies. Therefore, TCW cannot be canon because it goes against the highest tier of canonicity.
Well, then, like, couldn't all sorts of things in the EU retcon the movies then? Because until they got recontextualized.
Buddy, trying to recontextualize TCW is a challenge that nobody can undertake.
Well, I've seen quite a few people who have made a consistent chronology.
Those people are stupid and have wasted their entire time.
Well, Lucasfilm said that they were going to put together a complete chronology once the show finished, so obviously they still cared
Actually,
about
no,
it.
they had plans to just flat out kick TCW out entirely. The Abeloth storyline just flat out doesn't even mention Ahsoka, and it keeps everything about Mortis exceptionally vague to the point that if you don't even consider TCW, it pretty much never changes the story. The Darth Plagueis novel has only one chapter, the worst chapter in the book, where Palpatine gets Darth Maul. If you disregard that chapter as existing, it doesn't change the course of the book. And if you remove every mention of Satine in the Kenobi novel, it doesn't change that book at all. Basically, right. TCW is completely pointless, and if you take it out of the EU, if you take it out of the 6 movies, it doesn't change a single damn thing.
You can have your headcanon opinion that it doesn't exist.
It's not a headcanon. It is a headcanon. Reinforcing the rules of the tier system.
It is 100% headcanon because they believed it was in the EU.
Yeah, well...
I let the company, the Lucasfilm, Leland Chee, all those people dictate because they know more.
Well, clearly they didn't know enough when it came to TCW.
Well, they weren't the ones writing the show.
Well, I'm sorry, but facts don't care about your feelings. TCW goes against the 6 movies. As a result, it cannot be canon in any capacity whatsoever.
So I guess also Tales of the Bounty Hunters shouldn't be canon either.
Tales of the Bounty Hunters came out before the prequels did. That has an excuse.
It still violates the canon.
Those were recontextualized.
Yes,
and they did not do major damage.
Recontextualization, that's what I'm telling you. Those got recontextualized, these can get recontextualized.
But it can't, because again, TCW just does too much damage.
But like, think of all the... So I've read Children of the Jedi, that has like a group of Jedi who have kids, and they had to make that into Jyn Altus's group. And
again, the level of attempts to recontextualize TCW, it's impossible.
Well, I mean, it's not impossible because people have done it.
Actually, it is impossible. Wikipedia actually gave up when it came to Barriss Offee.
Right, because they literally
say somehow Barriss Offee returned to the Jedi.
Wikipedia only operates under we only use strictly what was said.
Well, if that's the case, then even the people at Lucasfilm had absolutely no idea how the hell to make it all work.
Right, and I imagine if they had more time with the property, they would have tried, because Leland Chee wanted to change...
and failed.
Okay, Leland Chee wanted to try and change the passage in The Last Jedi book that talks about even Peel. So they obviously cared enough to try and incorporate it into later things.
Yeah, but the thing is, it failed. There's a reason why they pretty much don't mention TCW outside of like the Kenobi and the Plagueis novel.
But a lot of TCW tie-in material connects heavily to the expanded universe.
Yeah, well, cut the TCW tie-in material out, and nothing gets changed.
Wait, so are you saying get rid of the show, keep the tie-in?
Nope. Get rid of everything that has to do with TCW. Everything that wears that label is gone.
Because you lose Pelion.
Completely guilty by association.
I mean, you lose references to Pelion. You lose references to Callista. You lose references to Ralph McQuarrie's character who appeared in Empire.
A noble sacrifice, but one that must be done for the sake of the EU and for Star Wars as a whole.
Well, I mean, imagine if, they had just said like something in New Jedi Order contradicted the EU and then they just erased it all. Do you think that would be worth it?
New Jedi Order is literally part of the EU, you idiot.
Right. I'm saying, what if it did something that went against the films?
Then they recontextualize it, depending, because again, the EU writers respected George and understood that it was his vision.
But they didn't always adhere to what he was doing.
But George approved of it. And he also was, they sent in questions and asked, hey, can we do this? Hey, can we do this? And he was given the ultimate say, yes or no.
In George's world, Luke never gets married.
Yes, but he approved of Star Wars Union.
Right, but I'm saying in George's vision, which is thrown around as being the EU, George's vision is apparently the EU. He doesn't have Luke getting married.
Yes, but he allowed it to happen now, didn't he?
Well, I don't get it. Are you just jumping around what I'm saying?
No, I am saying that the ultimate fact is he allowed Luke to be married. And he never said, no, you can't do that.
But that would, if he personally didn't want that to happen,
he could have said no.
But he doesn't. He says later on, he says, oh, I would never have Luke get married.
Because that's what he would have done. But rather than just have the EU do strictly what he did, he understood that that they wanted to let Luke be married. Lucas is not a narcissist. He's not like, no, you have to do things completely my way. The EU writers respected his vision. They understood that he was the ultimate authority, that they were being allowed to play in his sandbox. And George ultimately respected them enough that he was like, okay, I'll let you get Luke married.
Okay, but do you think that George went through every single piece of EU material and personally approved it?
Yes. He was sent questionnaires.
Everything ever made.
He was sent overviews and outlines.
So
and
he
also read the comics, which Star Wars Union itself is a comic.
He approved everything in the trading card games. He approved all that lore. He approved everything made on the back of a box. He approved everything.
I would say so, yes. There's pretty much nothing to indicate that he didn't.
So there's a comic book on the back of an Apple Jacks box. Did he approve that?
Yes, he would. And also those Applejack comics are chances are those are highly non-canon.
They're made by writer Wyndham.
So
he's a credited author in the EU who wrote the Droids run.
Okay, and Peter David is an accomplished Marvel comic book writer, and he wrote Skippy the Jedi Droid, a book that is a comic that is strictly non-canon.
Yeah, it was intentionally comedic or outrageous. There's nothing on the cereal box that says it's comedically outrageous.
Yeah, but seriously, would you really think that a Applejack story would be considered canon?
Yes, I do, because I think everything EU is canon. Everything outside the 6 films, unless it goes within itself.
Then then with all due respect, you're a brain dead idiot.
Okay, so I'm brain dead for understanding the EU is everywhere.
Because you don't understand that not everything that was published was canon.
So what would go against the Droids Applejack thing to make it non-canon?
I don't know. I haven't read it yet.
Right. So why would it be non-canon? I don't get it.
Well, would it be referenced by? Is it referenced by any other later EU material?
No, because it's one page.
Then it's questionable at best.
What about all the different comic runs that never get mentioned again?
Like
the comic run about the droids in the 90s.
The cartoon one?
No. He made There's a Ryder Wyndham, like another droid series. It had very sparse references elsewhere.
Oh yeah, I think I own yeah, I've read the first series of that because there were two of them, and one of them explained how C3 yeah, that one explained how C3PO got his silver leg. So yeah, that's canon.
Right. So I'm just saying that I don't think it should be. If it doesn't mess with anything, why should we think automatically it shouldn't be canon?
Because sometimes because context matters. I mean, shoot, Star Wars Tales has stories that are all over the place.
Yeah, but that's they outright said that some of those were canon, some of those were not.
Yeah, and you have to go through and figure out which ones are and which ones aren't.
Right. Okay, I'm getting lost in this freaking. I don't want to stay on this cereal box, but basically, the main point of what I was trying to illustrate was that there's no way he could have known every single little thing that came out.
Again, he was sent outlines. What, you think George
I
Lucas was sitting on his ass all day?
Do you think he was sent outlines for trading card descriptions, like the lore on the CCG?
I do know that he was talked to about the model for Mara Jade. So I would say it is very likely that he was approached with the trading card game.
And he approved every single card.
Chances, at the very least, he was probably sent them in samples, not like single individual cards. That is just freaking ridiculous.
So one day this guy is so busy that he can't approve a massive TV show with 6 seasons. The other day he's lazy, he's just relaxing, and he can go through and check off a trading card.
Again, by the time of TCW, George was checked out. As John said last night, TCW came out in 2008, and Star Wars died in 2012 when George sold it to Disney.
But apparently he was so checked out.
And
he was so checked out that he fought to save it.
And again, wait, what?
I said he was so checked out that he fought to make his own sequel scripts and have a part in when Disney took over.
He made treatments, not scripts.
Okay, treatments. But what I'm getting at is that if he was so burnt out, why would he want to be part of it anymore?
Because he didn't want Disney to screw things up. And even then, it was like he didn't even put up much of a fight, because it was like he says it himself that it was obvious Disney didn't want him there, so he left. He stepped aside and he let them wreck everything.
So he cares more. So he's burnt out. He doesn't want to do it anymore. But then he wants to have a position doing it.
He cared about the 6 movies at the end of the day, because the 6 films were his children. He himself described it as so. TCW, he honestly has never spoken of it in the same vein as his movies.
Yeah, and I don't expect him to love it in the same way, but he also hasn't spoken of the EU in the same way as the movies, has he?
He actually has called the EU the legacy of Star Wars, so...
For the fans.
No, he said it's the legacy of the franchise.
Well, he's flip-flopped on that about 1,000 times.
He wrote it in the Splinter of the Mind's Eye forward.
I thought we're not supposed to take Splinter of the Mind's Eye.
The forward, not the story itself, dumbass.
But that's an outdated prologue then.
It's not outdated.
Because his opinion hasn't changed.
He straight up told Kathleen Kennedy she had a whole world of books, comics, and video games to take from.
His opinion hasn't changed since 1978.
Well, it's clearly obvious he sees the EU as valid because he told Kathleen Kennedy to adapt it.
It was so valid that he contradicted Boba Fett.
Boba Fett was minor.
Yes, and exactly like I'm saying, the lines of dialogue and contradicting in the movies are minor to the Clone Wars.
They are not minor. Those are the movies themselves. And
it's one minor line.
George can contradict the EU as creator of the franchise. TCW
I thought he loved it.
TCW is produced by him.
Why would he want to contradict the true canon?
Because that is his God-given right as the creator of the franchise.
But if it's true canon, it can't be changed.
Acknowledged.
If it's true canon, it shouldn't be changed.
I don't think you understand. George is the creator. He gets to do whatever the hell he wants. Would I agree with every decision he makes? No. I mean, to be fairly honest, I would have not minded seeing his treatments come out because that means I get to have a live action Darth Talon. But I would not have
His
appreciated
treatments would have destroyed post art Return of the Jedi.
Well, there was talks about making Maul a clone.
Oh yeah, I'm not
because
even
there was
talking
the
about
Battle of the
that.
Sith Lords video game. But again, there's not too much concrete about that, and the treatments themselves aren't like fully recognized. So again, that can be that's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you think that he would want to make treatments that would adhere to the EU.
Look, man, George just wanted to write treatments so Disney would have something to work with.
I don't think you can cross a line where his opinion does and doesn't matter anymore.
George's opinion is skeptical at best.
Oh my gosh, that's what I've been saying, but now it's apparently set in stone that he loves the EU.
But he has referenced the EU in his movies. He had creative oversight of it.
Yeah, they were like, once again, minor, like the Outrider going through, and then Ayla Secura, and then
Coruscant,
I think that's about it.
Coruscant. There was Coruscant.
He was originally going to...
There's multiple. There's a video out there talking about all of the references in the EU that are made in those movies. I know
Coruscant wasn't even his first choice. He was going to name it like Hab Abaddon, like based on the scripts from Return of the Jedi.
But that was Return of the Jedi. That was before Coruscant even existed.
No, I mean in the prequels, he wanted to name the planet Had Abaddon, and then someone told him about Coruscant, and he...
Well, okay, so...
I'm saying, why was Coruscant not on the top of his mind? Why was he thinking of contradicting such an important planet name?
Because if you're seriously expecting George to remember every single little detail...
Isn't that what you guys do? Dude, no. You say that he approves every little detail, so...
He approves, but that doesn't mean he memorizes. There's a reason Leland Chi was hired.
Okay, so on one day he loves it so much, and then on the next day he doesn't even remember the most basic things that happen in the Thrawn trilogy.
He didn't read the novels, but then again, because he runs a company, he actually ran multiple companies. Who expects him to read the novels? We know he read the comics. He was a fan of the comics.
Yeah, just like I don't expect him to personally approve every trading card.
Again, I do know there was the story about him and the Mara Jade model. That's certainly a fun sentence to say. But again, I'm pretty sure I do. The trading card thing, it's like he most likely approved those in bulk. Those are products that need to be approved.
But every single one of them had different pieces of lore on them.
Again, people can write questions to George, and he would say yes or no.
Well, most of it was pulled from either Weston Games, but some of it was made up.
And he approved it.
I can't wrap my mind that... So he's running a company. He's a very busy man. He's making special editions, but then he can approve every individual product.
That's usually what you got to do as the head of a franchise.
No, as head of a franchise, you don't look at every single thing. Like it's like the CEO of McDonald's looking at every single minuscule part of like the Happy Meal toy.
Now I think we're getting into stretch territory. But again, it's like we don't know the day-to-day, but we do know that George was approving lore that was made up for the EU.
Right, and he also, by that logic, he also approved TCW.
Except TCW contradicts his movies, therefore, we can just throw it out and never have to actually engage with it. And dear God, you are better off not watching that show for the rest of your life, because God, you'll lose brain cells.
I doubt he would be executive producer on a show that tore down all 6 movies at once.
Again, Dave Filoni slipped things in behind George's back.
Okay, yes, he slipped in what was it, a title fade, like at the credits.
He kept Ahsoka alive.
It's not like he was tiptoeing around and he dropped 25 episodes in. That doesn't make any sense.
We do not know the extent of the damage Filoni did.
Okay, Filoni, there's other creators in that room as well. It's a whole board of people.
People who were completely on board with destroying everything, just like Filoni was. If you want evidence of this, I suggest you check out Star Wars Scran's Continuity Wars playlist.
Okay, but George Lucas wasn't involved at all.
George's involvement is very questionable when it comes to TCW.
It's bigger than any video game. It's bigger than any multimedia project. It's bigger than.
And yet he doesn't have more credits than being producer. If he truly saw TCW on the same level of his films, he'd certainly be a lot more involved. Shoot, maybe he'd write a script or two.
So him being a credit on it determines if it's canon?
No, the fact that TCW contradicts his movies determines whether it's canon.
So the Mortis gods, is that what you're hung up on? Mortis gods?
Mortis gods, the clones, Ahsoka's existence, Anakin fighting Dooku, Obi-Wan fighting Grievous, Anakin's personality in general, Yoda knowing about Order 66 beforehand, the inhibitor chips. Oh, there is a whole lot of garbage involving TCW that contradicts George's movies.
The Force has never been set in stone in the EU and what it was. It's always been changing through authors and stuff.
The Force has always had one clear constant. The light side is balanced and the dark side must be destroyed. The Sith must be destroyed. The dark side is not some other aspect of the Force. It is...
It is what?
It is, again, one, taking their negative emotions and selfish intentions and shoving it onto the Force itself. The Force is to be served, not to serve.
Right, but the Force is also mysterious, and we don't like. There's the wills.
So you're saying it's okay to completely destroy the entire philosophy of George in the 6 movies because of this one dumb arc in a kids' TV show.
We don't even know if the Mortis stuff actually happened,
which makes it a completely pointless arc that you can just skip.
Right. So if it's like they might not even be the Force. I mean, they could be fake gods.
Too bad we get no elaboration. But as it stands, it basically was, they're supposed to be Force gods.
Okay, and then Ahsoka being in the thing.
Oh, she certainly puts a lot of strain on the movies, yes.
A strain, but not to break.
More or less breaks, because again, why would the Jedi freaking trust Anakin with the responsibility of trusting a Padawan? That just makes Yoda look like an idiot.
Revenge of the Sith would be the only one that would be hurt in any way.
And that's still a G-canon.
Right, and like they don't mention just because they don't say it in the thing doesn't mean it didn't happen.
You'd certainly think it would be addressed now, wouldn't it?
If
Ahsoka was part of George's vision, then certainly she would be addressed in some way, shape, or form, but she isn't.
Well, lots of the things in the EU that are apparently George's vision aren't addressed.
When did I ever say the EU was George's vision?
Well, you've been saying that it's a true continuation.
It is. It's certainly more canon than TCW is.
Okay, the one that had less involvement from George is more canon than TCW?
It didn't contradict his movies, not intentionally.
So you've come through every single piece of EU and found no contradictions of the movies at all?
None that I can see.
I mean, there's plenty of them.
Name some.
So you have obviously the Boba Fett retcon.
That was George.
You have them saying that Leia knew her mother.
That one's a little shaky. That one I have to, once again, double check with somebody on because, yeah, that one I do see is a little odd. But again, that was George himself doing it to himself.
Yeah, so can't George contradict his own stuff?
G-canon can contradict G-canon. But TCW is not G-canon now, is it?
That doesn't make any sense. If it's on a certain level of canon, it shouldn't contradict itself.
Look, I have to double check the Leia remembering her mother thing. That one's a little odd.
Well, I mean, that's just like from from the movie, right? Because she remembers her mother, but then sometimes they say it's force vision, sometimes they don't know.
I have to double check on that one.
Yeah,
That
because
one put a pin in it.
in Black Fleet Crisis, Luke is trying to probe Leia's mind to find the memories.
And
I'm saying, yeah, and so it was heavily implied that she knew her mom, Padme.
well, yeah, but again, the Padme thing was the mother thing was a red herring in Black Fleet Crisis.
Yeah, they never found her mother. I mean, Luke and Leia's
Did
mother.
they find so they never found the memory. So it's not like it's an open contradiction, but I would say it's definitely kind of confusing because George kind of messed himself up. But that I have to check.
I just think that because I don't care about those little minor things, so I don't. And obviously, I know you consider the TCW things to be bigger, but
They are bigger.
Okay, in a 3-hour movie, Ahsoka doesn't get mentioned. That's 3 hours of time where she doesn't get mentioned. She could be mentioned.
Revenge of the Sith is 2 hours.
Well, I mean, it's longer than most of the movies.
Yeah, but no, it was the original cut of Revenge of the Sith that was 3 hours. I wish we got a 3-hour cut of Revenge of the Sith. That would have been freaking awesome. Yeah, no, it's 2 hours, 20 minutes. That's nowhere near 3 hours.
Okay, well, it definitely feels like 3 hours. But the point was that, and so that's even helping my argument because in 2 hours her name doesn't get mentioned. I mean, like that's 2 hours out of how many.
And she doesn't get mentioned once in the prequel trilogy. Well, in
Qui-Gon doesn't get mentioned in the originals.
Because what's the point of bringing up Qui-Gon when he's dead?
Well, what's the point of bringing up Ahsoka when she's not in the Order?
Why doesn't Anakin reach out to her when he's dealing with turning to the dark side?
Because he's not admitting that he's turning to the dark side.
Well, why doesn't he reach out to her when he's at an impasse, when he has to make a tough decision?
Because she went into hiding.
Why would she be going into hiding?
Because they never find her again.
Well, I do know that there was artwork that was supposed to showcase Vader killing her, which God I would have paid to see, but
oh yeah, that I saw that on Quinlan Voss' channel.
I hate that little orange tangerine, but anyway, but again,
why do you hate him?
Her, not, and you already know why I hate her.
Oh no, I thought you were talking about Quinlan Voss, the YouTuber.
No. Oh no, Quinlan Voss, I just don't like. I just disagree with him on the whole Wedgens thing, But that's a difference. I don't like him for that, but other than that, I just leave him alone. I don't think about him.
Yeah, Ahsoka.
Yeah, I was talking about Ahsoka. I was not talking about Voss.
Okay. Yeah, no, Voss I totally get hating her because I think she's obnoxious, but I don't think it contradicts the movies that she's not brought up. I mean,
but it doesn't make any sense. What contribution does she even make to Anakin's story?
Well, we're going off the idea that bad writing does not equal non-canon. So you can say that in Revenge
I never said bad writing equals non-canon.
No. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that it shouldn't be thrown out because of poor writing. So in Revenge of the Sith,
it's getting thrown out because it contradicts G-canon. That's why.
Okay, if the movie had said I've never had a Padawan, then yes, it would be a contradiction. It doesn't say it one way or the other.
But you'd think that because that happened, it would be brought up to some extent, especially considering Anakin would be put on the council.
You'd think, but just because you'd think doesn't mean it didn't happen. I mean, that's personal opinion. That's personal opinion.
Ahsoka just makes things a complicated mess. It's better to just cut her out and make things simpler.
All the Rebellion era stories make things a complicated mess. Should we just throw them out to make things simpler?
What do you mean?
There's just tons of stuff crammed into that 3-year span that it's almost like they never went to the bathroom.
Rebellion era. So you're talking like Star Wars Empire and Star Wars Rebellion comics, or?
Yeah, that time. So from from the end of A New Hope to the beginning of Empire. I mean, you've got Allegiance, Choices of One, Razor's Edge. You've got Honor Among Thieves, Splinter of the Mind's Eye. You've got a couple of different comic book runs. There's Vader's Quest. There's all this stuff that's happening.
Well, again, it's like the Marvel comic stuff is S canon. Like some stories got referenced and brought into the official C canon. Most stuff was kind of left out.
Well, think of all the missions books. Star Wars missions, that was like 20 books. And then there was all the different little comics in like the kids' magazines, and there was all. I'm just saying that it's a very crammed area, and it makes things complicated to figure out, but instead of throwing it all away, you should work to make it better.
There's no way you can work with TCW to make it better. I'm sorry.
Like when I want the EU to be as maximum, on the side of maximum acceptance. I know there are people who are minimalists, but I think the more the merrier,
Yeah, but again, TCW just ruins things.
I mean, it doesn't make them better, but it doesn't, just because it ruins stuff doesn't mean it didn't happen.
You can't jive TCW with the EU. That's like taking the negative and positive polarities of a magnet and trying to stick them together. It just don't work.
The authors did it.
No, they didn't. Again,
yeah, they included plenty of EU stuff in their comics.
Again, Mortis Abeloff's storyline pretty much has nothing to do with the arc from TCW. It works because they wrote out any reference to TCW in that storyline. And just because you reference the EU in the TCW tie-in material, yeah, no, that still doesn't work. You're guilty by association. You're out. TCW material, just all of it has to be tossed out.
I mean, I just think that's too much of an extremist take. Because man,
I'm not the one who made the freaking tier system.
Yes, okay, but you're going by the tier system, and the T is above C.
But again, the T violates G, but the C doesn't deliberately violate G. Therefore, C is more canon than T.
I still think you're reaching that it violates all of G canon. It doesn't.
It does.
No, we don't see the Clone Wars during the movies, except for the end of Attack of the Clones and beginning of Revenge of the Sith. We don't know what happens at all during that time.
But we do see how certain characters act, and we have dialogue that references the idea that certain characters haven't met each other before. Some characters haven't fought each other for a while.
George changed his mind, just like he changed his mind on how Grievous acts. That's a contradiction with the EU.
That was George changing his mind, and even then,
right? He changed his mind with the Clone Wars.
Oh, really?
And the EU.
So where is it that George says, "I want to see Anakin and Dooku fighting each other"?
Well, why? I'm talking about Grievous.
Then why does Obi-Wan and Grievous talk to each other like they are meeting for the very first time?
Because that was how it was originally going to be, but then they changed it later on.
Then that dialogue exchange in Revenge of the Sith no longer makes any sense. That is a contradiction of G canon. Therefore, bye-bye, TCW.
Okay, wait. Hear my reasoning for a second. When Return of the Jedi came out, and they had Leia's line about remembering her mother, the original intention was that she remembered her mother.
That is George contradicting George.
Yes, and he was executive producer on Clone Wars.
But that's George. Damn writer.
He came up with Ahsoka. He came up with the idea of him having a Padawan.
He came up with Ahsoka because Dave Filoni showed him a picture of the concept character Ashla.
And then he said, "Give Anakin a Padawan."
Yeah, because Dave Filoni showed him a picture. So in reality, you can blame Dave Filoni for being the reason that's stupid.
Is he that swayed by a picture?
George is a really bad judge of character.
He has no free will to deny a picture?
Well,
He's
this
the
is
head
also
of the
the same guy.
company.
This is the same guy who saw a statue of Darth Maul and Darth Talon and was like, "I think these two would be best friends." So it's definitely mostly George just came up with it on the spot and didn't actually think it through. And boy, oh boy, does it show.
Yeah, okay, you can argue that it was a bad idea. I think it's a bad idea, but I think it's a bad idea from George, and even though it's a bad idea, it should be honored. Like, I don't think all of the dialogue in the prequels was good, but I don't think it should be thrown out.
Yeah, well, TCW again just violates and again, if TC this wouldn't be a problem if TCW was G canon, but it's not. It's underneath. Therefore, TCW has to play ball with the prequels, and it doesn't.
Why wouldn't it be a problem if it was G canon? Wouldn't it be even worse?
Because it's on the same level of system, you idiot.
Hey, no, I'm saying if it's on the same level as G canon, then G canon would be running amok over other G canon if that's what you're thinking.
But it would be George's vision, would it not?
So George's vision is to run amok on his stuff?
If he so wishes.
And he wished so when he came up with Anakin having a Padawan.
But again, TCW is T canon, so therefore we don't have to worry about that little situation now, can we?
So because of the, but I've also seen people say that Leland Chi, because you've said Leland Chi is not a reliable source anymore. So why is the hierarchy a reliable source?
He made that source before he became a puppet of Disney.
No, I was referencing things the other night that he said before.
Well, again, facts speak for themselves. TCW violates G canon, therefore it can't be canon. And it breaks too much of the EU for it to be shoved in with the EU.
Dude, I mean, Jedi violates G canon as well.
How so?
Because there's the Corellian Jedi, which they had special medallions, they had families, they were
a different sect of the Jedi Order. So are Grey Paladins.
Right, but that was established after as a retcon because of what the prequels did.
And
so retcons can be
TCW flat out character assassinates people from the EU. How can you genuinely get that to work? I don't see Barriss Offee from the MedStar duology suddenly being younger than she is and bombing the damn Jedi Temple.
Well, MedStar takes place during like the second half of the war, doesn't it?
Why would they bring Barriss Offee back if she blew up the freaking temple and killed people?
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it was a good idea. I'm saying that they
can't make it work.
They would have done a retcon, just like they did a retcon for the other stuff that didn't work.
And it would have been completely horrible because that's
flat your out opinion.
Impossible. She's still
opinion.
a freaking Padawan. She gets knighted early in the war.
Right, but if you say that TCW like seasons 1 happened in the early part of the war.
See, this is why just ignoring TCW in general is just a good idea because this is freaking nuts and just makes no damn sense.
I mean, I just think it's like way too hasty to throw out everything.
I don't.
Like, I mean, they established, so after TCW came out, they didn't just throw their hands up and give up. They said, okay, let's turn this train wreck into something usable.
By referencing TCW as little as possible.
No, by making like established timelines, moving stuff around, trying to get it to work, trying to get it to fix.
TCW was canceled when Disney bought it, and then the EU got decanonized with TCW being brought in. TCW honestly just fits more with Disney Star Wars than it does with the EU, which I say is a far more fitting fate.
Yeah, but it was made under the reign of pre-Disney Star Wars.
Which is one part of the reason why it's such a damn headache. In my opinion, again, you should just toss TCW out and everything just works.
I mean, that's not true because you got a lot of different kinds of references that would get thrown out. You've got whole books that came out after that would have to be changed. Like the Bounty Hunter Code and the Book of Sith.
Again, those also you would have to toss those out, unfortunately. But c'est la vie.
I mean, when does it stop? Because there's no hard, firm line. When are we going to just keep cutting off things because we don't think they can work?
Once all the TCW references are ignored.
I mean, but then they didn't think the Marvel stuff would work, but then they kept referencing it.
Some of it, not all of it.
I mean, Dark Lady Lumaya came back. There was also the Starhoppers of Aduba 3 got an article in Gamer.
Like I said, some of it, not all of it. And also, S-Canon was more of a case. S-Canon was more of a case of they could bring elements back, like planets and such, not flat out storylines.
But even all those biographies, reference the Marvel comic books. Like the one you had, Rise and Fall of Darth Vader. I do believe it's been a while since I've read it, but it references all the different places he's looking for Luke's name, and it mentions that one of them was the place he did it in the Marvel comic book, implying that event happened.
No. The way I read it, he got it from a rebel pilot he interrogated.
Yeah, that was the final one. But they, remember, I think in the chapter they say he heard the name on blah. He heard the name on blah, and then it says he finally heard the name on duh. You know?
No, I don't think it ever specifically mentions the planet. It just mentions he got the name from a pilot, which he then promptly killed. But yeah, it's been a while since I've read it myself, so I would have to double check.
I'm just checking real quick that it referenced it.
I know it references Splinter of the Mind's Eye, and it references Thank the Maker from Star Wars Tales.
Yeah. What was the planet called here? Oh. Did you remember it referencing Domina Tag? Yeah, this. Okay, again, sorry.
Unfortunately, I'm not too caught up on the Marvel comics because I haven't read them yet.
No, that's fair. But this, according to this, A New Hope: The Life of Luke Skywalker mentions the Marvel comic run where he goes to the planet Monastery and runs into Vader. So I'm pretty sure they were assuming by that point that it happened.
Well, that's a completely different book, but I do know that it was like Vader got the name from a pilot that he then killed. The Luke one, I only remember the part where he fought Sybil again, and he went to Tatooine after he found out Anakin was in the Boot to Eve pod race. And then there was the then I remembered they referenced the storyline where he finds Hoth.
Yeah, so according to this, take this with a grain of salt, but the Rise and Fall of Darth Vader references Marvel 61 and 63.
I have to double check because one of those books did have like a page where it showed where all the stuff they referenced. But again, it's been a while since I've read them both.
Yeah. But then you also have the references.
For simplicity's sake, I would say just toss TCW out because it does contradict the movies after all 6 films were made. The EU, at least, was being made while George was making the 6 films.
Why not throw it in S-Canon then?
Because the Marvel stuff is extremely outdated in comparison, because that was being made back when the original trilogy was still being developed. I mean, shit, they flat out showcase Obi-Wan in one of those stories, and he looks nothing like Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, I always assumed that was just artistic interpretation. Like, you can see the story as having happened, but he looks different.
Something that kind of doesn't make sense considering every other story makes him look like Obi-Wan. But I digress.
He looks old in that one, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, he does look old. That's the thing.
Yeah. But, I mean, I just think that I'm not disagreeing that it has problems, but I don't think they're problems that can't be solved.
I don't think so. But I would say that at the very least, we could probably settle this at an agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And at least we can at least I would say that we can both agree that TCW sucks. Oh yeah, there was also the fact Tyrannus gets name dropped in front of Obi-Wan, and they never ever put together Sidious's plan by that point.
Yeah, well, they also don't put together when Dooku flat out tells him that there's a Sith Lord ruling the Senate.
Well, they do say they'll keep a closer eye on the Senate, but
But then you think
Dooku
they would act.
But even then, Yoda kind of writes it off, saying that Dooku was a liar. So it was more of a case of take it with a huge grain of salt. And even then,
But,
you had the war by that point.
well, then couldn't Tyrannus also be a lie?
Why would it be a lie when a Pike literally runs up and calls him Tyrannus?
Because that could be an alias.
But again, it's like that's the same name used for the Clone Order, so there's a link.
And I mean that one was even later into the war. They didn't have time to investigate. That isn't the last like season 6 or whatever set basically because the clones have phase 2 armor.
Yeah, the armor looks awful in that show. But anyway, but yeah, it was like the latter half seasons. I honestly don't remember quite when they did the shift.
So would you agree with me that it would be fair to say that they had less time to investigate?
Less time to. I'm not quite sure, but I do feel like it's very weird because it's like if Dooku has a connection and we know that he's the enemy, why would they not send one? I mean, shoot, Yoda could have done it because he has time to go. Because he has time to go do the stupid Force vision thing.
Yeah, but wasn't that only because he got talked to by Qui-Gon?
That arc is also a whole complete mess.
Yeah, I mean it's dumb, but it goes off of the ideas of the wills and it goes off the ideas of the living force. And
yeah, but it also has Yoda having a literal Force vision of Order 66 and just doing nothing about it.
Well,
like,
I mean, then didn't he see that as a lie because the dark side cave shows your worst? Like, why would he believe it?
I don't know. It's been a while. But anyway, I would say it's an agree to disagree situation between the two of us since we're just going around in circles and I'm getting a headache. But at least we can both agree that TCW Season 7 especially is non-canon because that was made into Disney Star Wars.
It is totally not canon.
Well, anyway, I would say just TCW is not canon in general. I mean, shoot, okay. I have said in the past, just put it in S canon and maybe that kind of works, but even then that's still shaky ground.
Right. I think it will take major revision, but I think that's what they were planning to do.
I think putting it in S canon would have been the better move.
Yeah, that would have been fair, but
that I would say is a compromise though. And but now that Disney's in charge, we're never really going to get a clear resolution. So as far as I'm concerned, because I like to keep things simple and because I really don't pay too close attention to dates and stuff, because frankly, if I do that, my head's going to explode. I would say that again, that TCW is just non-canon for the sake of my own damn sanity. Also because I refuse to acknowledge what they did to the ARC troopers. I hate that.
Oh, how they made it. They made them like detrained.
A general rank in the Grand Army of the Grand Republic, that's nowhere near as badass.
Yeah, but to be fair, Cody was also trained as an ARC trooper.
Yeah, but he was trained. Making it a general rank that any trooper can get is stupid.
But Cody was a rank and file trooper.
He was on Camino when he got the training, though, I think.
Well, no, he proved himself on a battlefield. I think it was score 2, something like that. And then he got selected by Alpha to do the training.
Either way, I'm still pissed at it.
Right. I just don't think that's a contradiction.
Well, that's what you think. And again, agree to disagree. I'd say we could just end the stream now because I'm getting a freaking headache just arguing back and forth over this.
Yeah, totally. At least we can. I want you just to know that I'm coming at it from a point of liking the EU, not wanting to destroy it. I want more EU in it.
Just as long as Disney's not the ones continuing the EU.
Right. Why do people put that out? I just don't think they would handle it well.
That was another reason I don't agree with Quinlan Voss or watch him anymore, because it was like he wants the EU to continue under Disney. And I'm like, if Disney can't even keep their own shit together, what makes you think that they'll do any justice to the EU?
Exactly. I mean, they released one EU project that was the Marvel continuation, and it brought back Valance for no reason. It was really dumb.
Well, again, so we can agree to disagree on TCW, because that in and of itself we can just agree is a whole damn mess.
Yeah.
And And at least
But
we agreed that Disney Star Wars is fake Star Wars.
yeah, I'd say we're allied on the position that the EU is better.
It is superior, and if you ask me, it is the official Star Wars canon.
Yeah, I definitely see it as the better continuity because Star Wars as a brand took a complete 180 when it was bought.
That's ain't that the damn truth?
It feels like a completely different idea, you know?
Yes, and at least we can take glee in the fact that the show is a horribly written piece of shit.
Yeah, in no way was I saying it's good, but see, like I don't think all of the stuff in Crystal Star because I read that one was good, but I also think it's canon.
Well, again, yeah, but to be fair, that did contribute because it gave us Jason, Jaina, and Anakin's personalities, which would later be fleshed out.
Yeah, well, I think
I read
Obi-Wan's
that.
personality was handled well in the Clone Wars.
Siritachi should be his only love interest.
I said personality.
Oh, his personality. Yeah, but I'm more concerned with the fact that they butchered my boy Anakin.
You mean just by making him talk more mature?
He shouldn't be. He should have much more struggle. We should have seen him develop over the course of the show, but he never really does.
Yeah, I mean they claim he develops when he has outbursts, but they're just kind of random.
Yes, it's not like how it's in the Republic comics. And also, just having him jump from being looking like his episode 2 self to episode 3 at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, that's why I think you need the multimedia project to supplement it because that's the only way you get the true development.
This is why I would say the CWMP is more canon than TCW.
I
But that
mean,
again,
I,
that's me. And I would also say that again. Also, no offense to Matt Lanter, but he should not have been the voice of Anakin because he sounds nothing like Hayden Christensen or Matt Lucas from the micro series.
oh yeah, I don't know why they didn't bring him back.
Hayden even wanted to be on the show, and yeah, we have always theorized that it's possible TCW was being made to be an apology for the prequels.
I mean, I think that's kind of speculation.
I do know that's speculation. There's nothing confirming it, but it is kind of telling considering it does address numerous quote unquote criticisms people had of the prequels, like making Anakin more likable to the point that you would not absolutely think this guy would become Darth Vader.
Well, then, I mean, he also brings back Jar Jar in a prominent role.
Yeah, but then people magically say Jar Jar is funny. Also,
Well,
General Grievous just constantly gets his ass kicked in that show. And I don't know how the hell you're going to rationalize that with him being a Jedi killer.
well, I mean, he got his ass whooped in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, but that was after Windu crushed his chest.
Yeah, but he would still be pretty powerful, right? Because I mean, they've cut off his arms before, and he still fought.
I have to look more into it, but I refuse to believe Grievous loses to Gungans. I mean, to be fair, if he had some victories, and no, I'm not counting the Night Sister. Oh yeah, the Night Sisters and Dathomir were completely rewritten from Courtship of Princess Leia.
Yeah, that's something that was addressed in Book of Sith, where it works to make them fit.
Yeah, but I have to look at it. But somebody did tell me that sorry, my voice. Yeah.
Oh, you're good.
But it's like that stuff. I did hear someone say that that's kind of tainted material because of TCW. So it's like,
Yeah, from a certain point of view, I think because I think I can appreciate their effort to try to fit it. That's
I can
personally
appreciate their
why
effort. I just don't think it was very successful.
I personally consider it canon because they consider it canon.
Well, I don't consider it canon because I believe it violates G canon. But again, we've already said agree to disagree.
Yeah.
I don't. We're going in. We're
something
spinning.
cool. Something cool before.
That's a good trick.
Something cool before we leave. Do you know of the so for the Star Wars miniatures line that they made these exclusive little scenario cards, and one of them has Anakin and Ahsoka fighting Dirge.
Ew.
I know, but at least it shows some crossover.
I don't want them to cross over though, because TCW is shit. and
Yeah, I
because I
just
hate Ahsoka.
what they were gonna do to Dirge in the show was gonna be awful. They were gonna make him a human.
Yeah. I'd rather they just did Cad Bane, even if again he's
Yeah.
basically just Dave Filoni's self-insert because Space Cowboy.
Yeah, I mean, other than like the cowboy hat, Cad Bane's, he doesn't really do anything to offend me.
TCW offends me by existing. But that's because
Yeah,
I love Star Wars so much.
yeah, no, I get it. I get it. I'm on the other end where I love Star Wars so much that I want everything to work.
I understand that part, but again, like I said, agree to disagree. And also, I grew up with the micro series and its accompanying comic book more than I did TCW because I actually did not watch TCW while it was airing.
Yeah, I never saw an episode when it came out. I just got into it. I think I did see TCW before I got heavily into EU, and for a while I actually see I know where you're coming from because for a while I had the same idea. I thought, oh, it's non-canon, but then I saw how much material there was, and I'm like, I can't throw all of this away.
Like I get that, but oh dear God, yeah, my chat's been going off for a while, and Justin Averello has been making a complete ass out of himself the whole time.
Are there were there any questions we could answer, or just
No, there isn't. There's just been people responding to the stuff we've been saying.
oh, okay.
1 hour senseless yapping aside of obvious stuff. It's a debate, dude. If
Yeah,
you
I
don't
don't.
like it, you don't have to watch.
I mean, I honestly just wanted to have a conversation because I like talking to Star Wars fans.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad the two like yeah, I did call you a couple of names, but that was because you were frustrating me. But we kept it mostly civil.
Yeah, I know. I'll be honest. I don't know where I was going with the cereal thing.
Yeah, yeah. Again, it's like it's cool. Like I mean, shoot. If you ever want to, you could always come on to dunk on Disney Star Wars and fake Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to do that, but I just like I don't I don't like trash like every single frame. Like when you watch a Star Wars explained video, and I'm like, it's kind of like just pausing it to say, oh, that's stupid, and then unpausing it, and then
Well, that's because I find it stupid.
yeah. I mean, we could just say we could expect that all his videos are stupid.
Well, yeah, but again, it's like different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, you set up. I can do weekends most of the time, but yeah, it would be cool to have go on there and talk EU anything like that.
Hey, whenever you want, man. Things would be simpler without TCW. That's what I say, but
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that, but I think we have to work with what we're given.
I don't think we really do that, but it's worth countering each statement if it's wrong. Oh, here we have a question. CGI clone troopers or live action, no doubt.
Oh yeah, I like the live action.
The black stripe on the helmet especially just makes it look a lot better because the CGI in TCW just looks freaking awful.
Yeah, I'll be honest, the phase ones kind of hold a little bit of a nostalgic just because of Lego stuff like that. But
I get that, but I just like the live action armor a lot more.
I also
Also,
don't
because
think
the micro series.
I think it's stylized as well, so it's not meant to be taken literally because like the
Yeah,
style
I get
there's
that. I get that, but I just prefer the look of the live action armor
yeah,
because like
that's fair.
I'm not arguing artistic style because if that's the case, where's General Grievous's organ sack in the micro series?
Right, exactly. Like because people unfairly criticize micro series for some like wild things it does, but most of the time that's just like an over exaggeration of what happens.
I should know. I had to argue with this one crazy chick on X about it. Also, micro series Grievous just slaps compared to TCW Grievous.
Oh yeah, I mean he doesn't even feel like the same person.
Well, he's just much more cooler. Oh yeah, we already. Oh wait, hang on. This was the one. I am your lawyer, God's gains geekiness.
Well, I appreciate that, but honestly, I'm just saying what I'm thinking.
I don't think you want Justin as your lawyer anyway. He's an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, I know he likes to spark up because I don't want to be the guy who just goes in to say stuff just to say stuff. I want what I say to actually have like a point.
Well, you certainly have more brain cells than Brandon the Awful or Lucky Kennedy. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah. Well, I just agreed when we were talking about yesterday, agree and disagree. Like obviously you saw I don't agree with when he tries to just attack the EU baselessly, but I agree with like quotes. Like remember that one quote he had of George Lucas talking about the clones? He was
Not
talking
being the Jedi not leading an army of droids or the clones being independent people.
it was the one about the clones like I can't remember. It had a post of like the clones in there from episode 2 and it was talking about how they grow to be more independent as they go on.
They should have handled it a lot better though, because again, TCW just makes it that it kind of doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but I just mean it's a George quote.
Yeah, but then you have to kind of, because if you take every quote George says as at face value, you just want to take a gun to your head and then ever so slowly apply pressure to the trigger.
Yeah, at least we can both agree that George has never made sense.
I just wish the damn man had a set up, just made everything so damn clear.
Well, he should have just like, yeah, I know 6 movies. He should have said, okay, here's the 6 movies. Either they happen in the same universe or they don't. You know?
I know, but we work with what we have. Question: thoughts on Cad Bane? I don't care
Without,
for him.
yeah, I mean,
Without
I think
contradiction.
I think he's fine. I don't know necessarily what he contradicts, but
I just don't care for him.
I think his voice is cool.
Opinions. What do you think about people that actually believe in Grey Jedi being a thing? I think those people are fake fans. That's what I think.
Where did Grey Jedi start from? What was the first source?
I think the first source was Ahsoka.
Okay, the book.
Like around Disney Star Wars stuff, because she purified her lightsabers and then she's like, I'm not a Jedi, but I'm not a Sith. And I'm like, what are you?
There's like the Falanasi and different groups that use the Force differently. So I don't know. I don't think they should be called Gray Jedi, but like the Witches of Dathomir obviously use the Force differently. And
yeah, but it was never flat out magic like in TCW, which that just looks like shit.
well, I've read Courtship, and they conjure this like massive storm.
Force storms are a thing though, because Palpatine was able to do it in Dark Empire. Goated story.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like the things that they used were like Force relics. Because like how Palpatine keeps a bunch of different stuff that he uses.
So help with Force magic. I mean, Force relics.
Yeah, it's like, and do you know? I bet you've seen the Ewoks TV movies.
Yes, I actually own them on DVD.
Okay, cool. So in the second one, that lady got retconned
That's a
to
night.
be a
That's a night sister. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and she had the talisman of the Raven, and that's what let her turn into that bird.
Yeah. I still have to read every single corner of the EU. I'm trying.
Oh yeah, trust me too. And that's one thing I wanted to say was that I baselessly said you didn't read it, and I apologize for that. I was going off bad information.
I have read it over the years, and on my the reason I only post the comics on my community post is not a whole lot of people talk about stuff like the Clone War Adventures and Star Wars Tales, so I wanted to share those. And second, it just makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I honestly love Star Wars Tales.
Yeah, the problem is I have to find time to finish reading all the damn books I have. Because right now I'm doing the Expeditionary Force that my dad gave me. So that's the other. Wait, what?
Sorry, I was gonna say, would you ever make a video on your book collection?
I might, but the problem is I don't want to show my face. So there's that, and I don't.
Okay.
Because again, I have my family to think about, and I already have enough unhinged enemies as it is.
Okay.
I don't need to dox myself.
That makes sense. Do you have like most every book?
No, there's a handful of books I'm still missing. I don't have the Marvel comics. I don't have the X-Wing books, because the vast majority of the EU collection is my dad's. But I have the Dark Empire trilogy, New Jedi Order. I think he has Fate of the Jedi and Legacy of the Force.
That's cool.
He's got some of the multimedia project books. I got the first 3 volumes of the Clone War comics. I have all 10 volumes of Clone Wars Adventures.
What kind do you collect them in? Like omnibus form or?
I try to collect them in omnibus form. Although I did pick up a copy of Star Wars Droids because I found it in my comic shop, the first of 6. I have not found the other 5.
Yeah, it might be worth it just to buy the collected editions.
I also own, actually, I do own the first reprinted issue of when Marvel adapted Episode 4. I have the I have the Star Wars Episode 1 Anakin Skywalker comic, which I made a short on. And then there's my action figure collection, which is mainly the 30th anniversary.
That's the best.
That's the line I grew up with. I actually have a few of the Dark Empire figures too.
Yeah, I love the range of characters that they made in action figures. It's insane.
Again, why? This is why Disney Star Wars is fake Star Wars. It's nowhere near as cool.
Right. Well, I mean, they don't have as many cool characters to make.
They don't have any cool characters to make, honestly.
No. And like they just, I don't know, they just always like they take a design that could be cool in a context and then ruin it.
Dave Filoni for you.
Yeah, I don't get the obsession with Rebels.
I don't get the obsession with TCW, but that's me.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not obsessed with it.
Yeah, I get that, but I mean, the micro series is definitely the better of the two shows.
Totally. And
man, I just wish Gennady Tartakovsky was attached to the show. Maybe then we wouldn't have had this problem.
That would have been really cool. I wish he did a story set either during the originals or after in that art style.
Yeah, I really do wish, because we have the Clone Wars Adventures books. That's the closest we'll ever get. I mean, shoot, Dave Filoni wasn't even hired by George. It was Catherine Winder who did it. And then she left the company shortly beforehand. I think she had the right idea.
Yeah, jump ship while you can. But
I also my dad has the Clone Wars movie novelization by, of all people, Karen Traviss.
I know, seeing that, and then she also wrote No Prisoners, and I just can't believe that, because I heard that she left after.
Well, when Dave Filoni ruins all the hard work you did with the Mandalorians, it's no wonder.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised she even stuck around to write the first book, because it had to have clones having personality.
I mean, I don't blame her for leaving.
No.
I blame George for letting this show go on for as long as it did.
Yeah, and that's fair. Lots of people I run into say that nothing is ever George's fault.
I'm more than willing to admit when George makes a mistake. Ahsoka was a mistake.
Yeah. Like, I think making the show was a mistake. And honestly, I think the show was made because they were going through a dry spell. I mean, there was no...
I kind of don't get that, considering the EU was still around, but...
Yeah, but if you want to capture more, like, a wider audience, you go to TV.
I mean, Star Wars was doing just fine from the 90s onward because you had the EU, but...
Yeah, but would you say that most average people read all the books? I mean, the people who read the books were, like, the nerds.
Well, Star Wars is for nerds. What can I say?
Yeah, but like a TV show would reach a broader.
I get that part, unfortunately. But it's like there certainly should have been a better way to handle things.
Right, and didn't he also want to make Underworld a TV show?
We only have test footage of that, but I would have loved to see it, because that would have at least been G-Canon, because George was working on it. Actually, I think T-Canon exists because Star Wars Underworld was a thing, not TCW. TCW just got shoved in there.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's kind of weird because droids and Ewoks should be T-Canon.
But they're not for some reason.
Yeah.
Like I said, the tier system itself is also kind of weird. I think they would have had to reshuffle things, but she never got around to it. Which means the job is now left to us fans to do it.
I think that yeah, I think that that would be good for the fans to do it. Do you support fans continuing the EU, or do you think it's done?
Fans continuing to EU is really dicey because it's
Yeah.
like you have to be careful because again, as I say, just remove references to TCW and you're fine. But also at the same time, it's like you have to work with people to make sure you don't contradict pieces of the EU, and also so that you don't screw things up and write dumb fan fiction.
Yeah, I think that it kind of gets out of hand if you like I'm all for it being written, but I don't personally see it as canon.
Yeah, I would say it's a cool idea, but it's not canon. As far as I'm aware, the EU for now is just put to rest.
Oh, if you don't mind if we keep talking, do you care if it's not the debate? I just want to ask some questions.
That's no problem.
Okay. What do you think of supernatural encounters? Have you heard of that?
I heard of it, don't care to read it.
So, like, it was technically made before, and then parts of it came out after. So it's really muddy if it's in canon or not.
I would say it's not, especially since it doesn't really seem to have the Star Wars label on it.
Yeah, it was originally going to come out in different magazines, and then it kept getting pushed back, and then
Yeah,
it got.
I would say it's not, and I don't
Yeah,
care to read it.
that's fair. I would say that it's probably at the most S canon,
Yeah,
and
I mean, I don't really, especially since it didn't get the Legends Lab label slapped onto it. So there's that too.
yeah, and it wasn't released by Disney. It was released on his site.
Yeah, so I would say definitely not canon, but that's me.
But then you also have Skywalkers by Abel G. Pena, and that was released in 2015, but it was a legend story.
That one I think is a little more acceptable for people. I mean, for one, it offers a better alternative to Ahsoka.
Yeah,
But
Halagad Venton.
that one I also kind of write off as well.
Really? Because I love how it helps fix the Marvel issue of the.
I haven't read it yet, so I wouldn't. So I wouldn't. I don't want to pass too much judgment on it.
Yeah, I think it's cool because the Padawan he takes is from one of the Western game stories, and then they
But yeah,
also
yeah, I
fit it
remember
into the
before
Marvel.
scruffy looking nerf herder stabbed me and everyone else in the back. He made a video on that.
How did he? I haven't kept up with that. What happened?
He cut contact with me over a political opinion I had, and he took screenshots of Star Wars Scrans' Discord server and handed them to Lucky Kennedy.
Oh, and were they bad or something?
No, Lucky literally has no incriminating evidence, but the very fact that Scruffy did that was like, that's a breach of privacy, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, I like to keep. Obviously, politics are real world, so they're going to come up, especially in modern media. But when I'm talking about Star Wars, I want to talk about Star Wars.
I know, but Scruffy didn't even tell me. He just dropped me cold turkey and then joined the enemy.
Yeah, because I think that we should see past all that stuff because it's more
Yeah,
engaging to talk about.
yeah, that's what I've said on my Discord server. It's like I don't want to talk politics because we're here to laugh at how bad modern entertainment is and to remind
Yeah,
people of the good old days.
well, that's just why I don't like. I used to watch everything that was negative towards new stuff because woke and stuff, and I agree that it's not great, but I just can't take saying that all the time. It comes
That's
to a
why
point where it's
I don't use that word anymore.
yeah, it's kind of like a catch-all term for anything that
Just kind of like when Lucky Kennedy called me a Nazi.
yeah, I don't think that's true. Because in that context, weren't you saying you were proud to be called it because of the
I was
connotation?
I was saying that because the term has lost all meaning because they just keep throwing it around.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Um,
as red-blooded an American as anyone, buddy, baby.
um, oh, what was I gonna say? But yeah, I can't stand to watch the new stuff because it just drives me crazy.
Me neither. I can't stand to watch new stuff because it basically offends me with how bad it is.
Yeah.
Hence why I
Um,
gatekeep for Star Wars, Marvel, you name it.
so I want to get your opinion. Is somebody who likes Disney, even though they don't know much about the EU and they just like Star Wars? Are they just not a fan of Star Wars?
Yes. I mean, granted, I am more than willing to help people get into the EU, but that is their decision to make. I'm not going to force them to do it.
Right, because I think of it as like there's different like I'm a fan of EU, but then that's like saying, Marvel fan if they're only a fan of the Ultimate Universe, they're not a Marvel fan or
Well, with Marvel, it's basically if you like Marvel, like past all new, all different, yeah, you're definitely a fake fan because that's when they killed it. They killed their brand, and even then, it was already shaky in the 2000s.
yeah, the Marvel stuff. So I used to be way more into comics, but I just I can't do it because I like stories that have like an established timeline.
Marvel used to have one
Yeah, but even so, it seemed like Peter would never age.
because they just refused to let him grow up.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily bad, but it makes it have less stakes because it feels more like they're never gonna die, so
I get it. Different strokes for different folks, like I say.
yeah. Do what's your opinion on MCU? Do you hate that?
Now that I've been getting into comics more, it's not that I hate it. I personally like the first phase, but as it goes on, it definitely gets worse.
Yeah,
Because
I agree.
because it's like
I,
with Spider-Man, they barely even adapted him at all,
yeah,
and now it's at the
I
point where
hate
it's
Tom
flat out
Holland Spider-Man.
it's flat out.
It's
And nowadays, the MCU is just flat out unwatchable.
yeah, I don't agree that he should because the whole point of Spider-Man is that he makes his own stuff. And why does he get everything from Tony?
Because they basically copy pasted Miles Morales. Because Miles got his own crap handed to him.
Yeah, so I've seen that you don't like Miles. You would never accept him in any context.
No, not really.
Is it just because he's taking up the mantle?
It's because he solely exists to be a black Spider-Man. That defeats the purpose because Spider-Man is like the most relatable protagonist of all time.
Wait, so you're saying he can't be relatable if he's black?
What? Writing a character so that they appeal to a specific demographic when said demographic had absolutely no problem with the previous protagonist. It's cheap.
Well, then also wouldn't Spider-Man being white would be for the white demographic?
Spider-Man appealed to every demographic. We don't need a Spider-Man for every single group of person that exists.
I know, but I mean, you can relate to Miles even his skin color doesn't matter. It's the struggles he goes through.
The problem is they don't really give him any struggles to go through.
Well, in the Spider-Verse movies, yeah.
I hate those movies.
I mean, I think the first one's okay. The second one is not great.
The first one's I hate it. I hate what it says at the end about anyone being Spider-Man because that meant people took in a literal context. And now I'm angry all the time. But because, God, so many OCs I've seen. Help me.
Well, I think the idea of the Spider-Verse was where it all went wrong.
Well, I agree with that. Across the Spider-Verse was worse.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally. I don't like how they handled like all the different it just felt way too like goofy.
Yeah, and then there was like it did have some political stuff I don't agree with on a
Yeah.
religious and a moral standpoint. And again, honestly, I would say like Peter's just the better written character of the two. As far as I'm concerned, Miles is not Spider-Man because he only exists to check a box. And that doesn't make a character, genuine.
So would it be like is it just because of his race?
Because he exists only to appeal to a demographic that never had a problem relating to Peter before.
Like so you're opposed to anyone taking a mantle that wasn't the original.
As if it's handled well, that's one thing.
What about like Wally West?
Wally was not written to check a box, though.
Well, that
And
just because he's white.
No. I mean, again, Wally is a ginger for one, and Wally took over after Barry got killed in Crisis on Infinite Earths and the universe rebooted.
Yeah, I mean, like that's what Miles did in Ultimate, right?
Yeah, but Ultimate did some stupid stuff. Like it condensed all of Peter's comics to the course of a single year. That was stupid. And Miles didn't even make his own suit or make his own web shooters. So it did feel cheap. But a lot of people, even Miles' own fans, like throw his Brian Michael Bendis' run under the bus.
Yeah, I just don't
Like
think
even they acknowledge those were garbage.
I like Peter Parker's stories better, but I don't think him existing is a affront to, you know, I just think I don't really care.
That's you, but it's like Miguel O'Hara is definitely the better legacy character.
Yeah, I mean, that is set in like is 2099 in 616 or is that alternate universe?
No, it was originally an alternate universe, but it is like a potential future for 616.
Yeah, but honestly, I'm in favor of Miles only because I think if you want to have any real progression, it's time to retire the character.
Well, in that case, I would say just use Mayday.
Isn't she alternate universe too?
MC2, but again, you could also that is like a alternate future for 616 that you could go with.
Yeah. But I mean, what would be the problem with using Miles if like is it just because Mayday is not black?
Dude, if you're trying to say I'm racist, it's not going to work. But again, Mayday just has better writing, and she's the literal daughter of Peter Parker.
Well, we don't know what the writing would be. I'm talking about a hypothetical.
Hypothetical.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Considering
what
that
if someone wrote him amazingly?
I don't know. I don't know about that. That's definitely a case of I don't believe it.
Yeah, I just mean I think he can work because eventually the old heroes will have to people will get obviously Spider-Man is a very popular character that's existed since the 60s and people still like him, but if you want they can't live in the middle, you know? They always try to have him do things that makes him seem older, but then he never actually just, turns in the towel.
I mean, comic books don't comics could always just reboot, but in all honesty, it's like why you don't have to pass the mantle. Like
I mean, yeah, you don't have to, but there have been successful passings of the mantle.
I would say if it's an alternate universe thing, then that's fine.
Like, are you opposed to Jon Stewart being Green Lantern after Hal?
Different false equivalents, but that's because the Green Lanterns are a police force. That's not necessarily completely a mantle thing.
Well, I mean, he's the Green Lantern of Earth.
They rotate it, so it's not. So it's not necessarily a case of they're just replacing each other. It's it's kind of like swapping shifts.
Yeah, but
even if I'm personally more of a Hal Jordan guy than a Jon Stewart guy, I don't hate Jon Stewart. I liked him in Justice League, though.
Yes, yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with somebody else taking it up for a time.
With Miles, I just don't care. But that's because I don't like him because he's basically the poster child for everything that went wrong with Marvel going into the 2010s.
Honestly, I think that might be Spider-Gwen.
Fair enough.
I just like once you introduce that there's like a billion Spider-Man, it just lost its meaning.
Yeah, I prefer Shattered Dimensions.
Yeah, I've never been able to play those games, but
I have all 4 Beanox games. One of my claims to fame as a nerd.
Oh, aren't they like really expensive?
Edge of Time cost me $75.
Wow.
Anyway, you got any other questions? Sorry for the interruption.
No, you're good. What's your like favorite EU story?
My favorite EU novel is Shadows of the Empire so far.
Really?
Yes.
I love the all the tie-ins, the comic and the game.
I have not gone to the game yet or the comic. I think I own like one issue of the comics, and that was from a 2-pack.
The Shadows of the Empire Dark Horse Omnibus is basically has everything.
That's gonna cost me an arm and a leg on eBay.
Yeah. Do you collect Epic collections?
Not the Marvel ones for Star Wars, if that's what you're talking about. I don't buy stuff with the Legends label, not on
Yeah,
purpose.
I just think they don't look great. They kind of look weird. I
The
don't like
essential
seeing that.
the essential Legend covers look like ass.
The only one I have of that is Han Solo Adventures.
I have the Han Solo trilogy with the Legends label. Thank God it's still the original covers, but it's still not preferable. But that's because I got bamboozled by Amazon.
Oh, wait, I didn't know they made like the single paperbacks with Legends banners.
Oh no, they do.
Oh, because I thought after they're first published, they always got collected in volumes.
The comics, yeah, they are in. Those are in fact in omnibuses, but I don't buy those. But I do buy the Epic collections for normal Marvel comics, the classic stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. I just don't like seeing a giant Marvel logo on something that was done by Dark Horse.
I agree with that. I actually have a omnibus for the first collection of Empire and Droids and Ewoks.
Oh, Droids and Ewoks is a good one. Yeah, I wanted to get Droids and Ewoks, but then they accidentally sent me just Droids. So that's how I know about the 90s run.
Oh, hey, you still got Droids.
Yeah, it was cool. I really love, I'm sure you do too, but just all the obscure like little tidbits. So the Wild Space Volume 1 is great. It's got tons of like UK comic books and stuff.
Yeah, I like obscure media too, and I love the Darth Vader Cry of Shadows and Darth Vader in the Lost Command. I still need to get Ninth Assassin and Ghost Prison, and that's because
Yeah,
I am a Darth Vader stan first and foremost.
yeah, I can tell it's probably your favorite character, right?
Yep, Anakin
Yeah.
Vader have always been.
I don't know what it would be for me. I like Luke a lot. I really like Lando.
I like
Uh
Django as well.
yeah, Django's a great one.
I
And
love Star
also,
Wars Bounty Hunter.
yeah, I've only played a little bit of that, but that's another thing that got retconned by TCW because Gardula is in it.
And that is why I hate that. And that is another reason why I absolutely hate that show.
But I think they explained that he survived in the belly of the Krayt Dragon because,
Even you have to admit that's really a reach.
well, I don't think so because the Jedi Prince series, Zorba the Hutt falls into the Sarlacc and he comes out alive. And he says nothing can digest a Hutt.
Maybe the Sarlaccs just don't have a taste for huts. But anyway, again, we're not just going to argue. We've kind of like agreed to disagree on that.
Yeah. But yeah, I like talking positively about EU stories we both enjoy.
Well, absolutely. That's what I try to do on my channel.
Yeah, so I don't know when you officially started, but I mainly got into it like last May. And so far I'm about to read my 30th book.
Oh, the EU. Oh,
Yeah.
I've been a fan of the EU since childhood.
Oh yeah.
I just, but yeah, I didn't start reading novels until like I was like late middle school into high school.
Hmm. I didn't know for the longest time I didn't know there was a difference, you know, it was just Star Wars.
Same here.
And yeah. And I remember I remember when The Force Awakens came out, and that was before I really was into knowing both canons. So I did have some stuff from that because I just thought, oh, it's a Star Wars movie. And but then eventually I learned, I think it was at a visual dictionary was the first thing I saw that was from the EU, and I was like, I just love the detail. So after that I abandoned it and just went straight to.
My back was broken when I saw a Reva surviving getting stabbed with a lightsaber, and after that I
Oh,
was
that's what
done.
turned you off?
Yes.
Yeah, that honestly, which is worse though, that one or the one that happens with Sabine?
They're both awful. What are you talking? There's no distinction. To me, all of Disney Star Wars is horseshit.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's even crazier than Darth Maul.
Maul surviving that is a complete reach. Boba Fett was able to work, and that's because George lucked out.
Yeah. But you have to admit that Darth Maul was coming back was a George idea.
It was a bad idea.
Right. But it was a George idea.
Yeah, but it's still a bad one.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming you like the prequels more than the originals, I assume?
I love all 6 movies equally. I have no real complete bias.
Okay, that's totally fair.
Yeah,
Um
yeah. If
oh,
I ever swing one particular mood that day,
sorry, you cut out for a second. What'd you say?
if I swing one way or another with the trilogies, it's because I'm feeling a particular mood that day. But I love them all 6 movies equally because they all tell one big story.
Yeah, that does make sense. I have to say that over time, I've softened on the prequels because I honestly the EU made me like Jar Jar more. It's kind of crazy, but
I always like Jar Jar. Yeah, I
yeah,
said it.
I just don't like when he steps in shit and
Comedy is
it's
subjective.
yeah, he gets farted on. Like that felt pretty lowbrow.
Like I said, comedy is subjective. So there's that.
Yeah, but I
Um,
guess it's kind of like the things burping outside Jabba's palace.
yeah. Yeah, like I said, different strokes for different folks. Comedy is subjective in that case.
Do
Everybody
you?
has. Hmm?
Sorry. I was gonna say, do you? Because the special editions are, and you and I both agree, are the canon versions of the movies. But do you like Jedi Rocks more?
I have not listened to the original, so I would not know, but I like Jedi Rocks. I don't get the hate for it.
Yeah, or I guess not. Sorry, not just the music, but like the guy running up and breaking the fourth wall and
The what?
singing.
The what?
The guy who runs up and like screams into the camera, breaks the
I
fourth
find that
wall.
I always found that funny. So that's me.
Yeah, that's funny. It just felt very out of character.
I liked it. So like again, I own the 2006 DVD collection specifically, so I don't have any problem with it.
Oh, the one where you can see both cuts.
Yes.
Yeah, I've watched both cuts, and even if I prefer the old cut, I still count the new cut as canon.
I I just see them all as this. I just don't particularly pay attention to that kind of stuff, but that because it's still the same story.
Yeah, that's fair. I just think that Jabba being in A New Hope kind of lowers his reveal in Episode 6.
I get that, but I don't mind it.
Yeah, and
Also
also,
because I like seeing Han Solo step on his tail.
yeah, that is really funny. But it's kind of crazy to me that after all this time, the Jabba in it still looks like really bad.
I don't think he looks too bad.
Well, he definitely doesn't look like Episode 6.
Well, to be fair, he probably was sitting around just get allowing himself to get slathered. So
Yeah, because his skin is kind of different.
that's what you get
Um,
when you're not out into Tatooine, son.
yeah.
like
Also,
I get what you're saying, but I don't particularly mind.
yeah, no, and that comes down to, in my opinion, just style, kind of like the Clone Wars.
Yeah,
And
like I said, I don't mind it too much because it doesn't necessarily shatter it for me.
and honestly, the EU makes it better for me because they establish Jabba has this almost father-son relationship with Han, so it makes more sense he would visit him personally.
He did say that Han was his favorite smuggler.
Yeah, and I always just thought, he's just one of his guys, but that it makes a lot more sense that he saw him kind of like a protege.
Okay, why'd you go and fry poor Greedo?
Yeah, that's a great line. Um, I like that the guy who was the original guy there got canonized. The big guy with the
Yeah, he
oh
he shows up later on.
yeah, they called him Heater.
Yeah, I think OG Star Wars talked about that on X one day.
Yeah, have you listened to the radio dramas?
No, I have not yet. I've been doing the Dark Empire ones when I've been exercising.
Oh, how are those?
They're really good. Again, I have a playlist uploaded with all the dramas I was able to find.
That's cool. Do they add a lot?
I'd say so. I mean, I also owned a Dark Empire trilogy myself. It was the first trilogy I've actually bought myself.
Yeah. I had Dark Empire 1, and then the other two I had to read online.
I was actually lucky to find them both in good condition on Amazon.
Oh, on Amazon too?
Yeah, they were on Amazon. I've only just started buying stuff on eBay.
Yeah, I've had to go there because you never know what you get from like those big booksellers, just usually like crap.
Mm-hmm.
They all come in like I got one book, it was kind of harder to find, so I had to buy it just from one of those thrift booksellers, and the cover was bent in half.
When I got the Battle of Jabeam comic collection, the first time I got it, it was falling apart. I tried
Oh
to pass
yeah.
it off to my brother, but he threw it out.
Oh man, that sucks.
Yeah, so I ended up getting a newer copy off worldofbooks.com.
And it was actually good.
Yes, it's actually in good condition. It goes with my other ones.
That's cool. I think the first real EU I actually saw after was the Clone Wars Adventures comics because I was
Yeah,
obsessed with the micro series.
yes, I grew up with the micro
Yeah.
series and those books. Those were my first exposures to the EU. And my dad did have EU novels lying around the house that he and mom would read sometimes.
The craziest thing was I found I think it was volume like 2 and 4 in now this is way after they had come out and after Disney bought it and everything, just in a modern bookstore.
That's
Like
really cool.
yeah, like just on the sale with the other books. Like it wasn't a used bookstore or anything.
Yeah, the vast majority of my EU collection is actually my dad's.
Oh, was he a big fan? Like was he reading it when it came out?
Yes, he was. He was a Star Wars fan from
That's
the
sick.
70s.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it breaks my heart to see that he what Disney did because like to this day when he talks about the Last Jedi, I can tell that it just broke him.
Oh, so does he consider the new stuff to be canon then?
He does not. He hates what they did to Luke, and he just checked out.
Yeah, that's fair. I the I know you haven't read Black Fleet Crisis, but I was kind of scared that's what they were gonna do to him. But they give a little bit more of an explanation.
Yeah, I think I've only read like the first book of that, but my memory of that is a little spotty.
Yeah, basically, it's kind of weird. He says that he thinks that he's becoming so powerful that either he needs to stay away from everyone or they'll need him all the time. But isn't that kind of a Jedi's purpose?
I mean, to be completely relying on one person, it does put a stress on you.
Oh yeah, no. But I think I'm glad they did by the end of the Black Fleet Crisis, he recognizes it was a mistake. So it's not like he just gave up.
Exactly. Or tried to kill his nephew
Yeah.
in his sleep.
How can you argue that?
Well, apparently Dan Star Wars Centralized tried it, and I tore him apart for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of sucks because I like some of that guy's stuff like that talks about like I think he did HoloNet News. Um,
Yeah,
he used to,
I think I'm subbed to HoloNet.
um, but no, like the web pages before episode 2.
Oh yes, I remember that. I remember hearing about that. I still need to collect the Star Wars Insider issues.
Oh yeah, those are going to be a pain.
Yeah, I only own like a handful, and some of them, unfortunately, are from TCW.
Well, you know they're all on Internet Archive.
Yeah, but I prefer to also have the physical stuff. But that's because I am a collector.
I agree with you. But for now, like I'm gonna focus on the stuff that I can get easier first, then work.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just collecting whatever whenever the mood strikes my fancy, like whatever I'm in the mood to get.
Do you just kind of like say, "Oh, that looks cool," and then buy it?
Yes.
Okay, that yeah. And then what do you think of Fantasy Flight books?
Fantasy Flight? What are those?
Um, so they were like, so you know how there's Western Games, then Wizards of the Coast, then
Yeah.
Fantasy Flight picked up the role playing game, and they
I still need to get all of those.
yeah, well they started publishing pre buyout I think, or either like before 2014, and they went the books went even into Disney era, but they contain Legends information or EU information.
Well, if it's got Disney era information, then I say they're shit.
Like, would you not like pick and choose?
I'd rather just not buy them at all if that's the case.
Yeah, because some of it was new EU, and some of it was Disney garbage.
I'd rather just cut out the middleman and not get them. Then I'd rather have nothing to do with Disney Star Wars.
That's totally fair. But and then the official Star Wars fact file did the same thing because it started having Rebels information in it, but then on other pages it was EU.
Well, that's why. Well, if that's the case, it's like you cut it off.
Yeah, I just think it would. I would collect the parts of it that do work with the EU, not the.
Well, I just prefer to cut out Disney Star Wars entirely because Disney Star Wars is a cancer.
Yeah, I'm just things like that make collecting Legends both fun and insanely frustrating.
Hey, its real name's the Expanded Universe. I'll have you know.
All right, it's slipped out. Sorry. I
That's
just
fine.
I just call I just call it, I've seen it called it that so many times it's stuck in my mind. I mean, to me it marks quality.
Well, for me, I am a stubborn son of a bitch, and I call it by its real name. I recognize Disney has absolutely no authority as.
Yeah. And I think it's stupid I think it's kind of funny that they by calling it Legends they basically said that that stuff is better because it's legendary and the new stuff is just
I mean, yeah, but nobody goes around calling it the Disney EU, so
yeah, they just call it canon.
yeah, so there's nothing wrong with calling it the EU by its proper name.
Yeah. I just don't get that upset when people say it.
I just, I send a reminder, but that's it.
Yeah.
But
And
that's because I love Star Wars with practically my whole body, heart, and soul.
but that's like I support the Quinlan Voss guy because I mean I don't think that's hurting anyone by him calling it that.
I don't support him because of that stupid ideology he has of continuing the EU under Disney. That's just asking for problems.
Yeah, I personally don't agree with that, but Matt Wilkins has also said it should be continued.
I think he changed his mind about that. I
I
think I cannot personally vouch for that.
Yeah, and I've seen on some of your streams before Iron Inquisitor, and he's talked about retcons for TCW, so he must consider it part of canon.
I don't know if he's changed his mind about that.
Yeah, but I just think that it can be done,
I don't see it happening, but
Oh, it will never happen while Disney's in control because they don't care.
well, I just don't see it happening, period, but that's me.
Yeah. I just see it would be a mess, but I think it could be done. You would have to say, because Asajj, like her getting kicked out is really stupid before Obsession.
Yeah, and then there's Ahsoka that you have to deal with. I'd rather she just be dead.
Like I do like that painting of Vader fighting her, but she looks like she did in season 1. It's really weird.
Yeah, and also you have Captain Rex, but no Commander Appo.
Oh, in the show?
Yes.
I thought Appo was in later episodes.
I don't know.
Um,
I know
I'm
Rex
just
replaces Alpha 17.
let me see here. So on Wikipedia it says that Appo is in 3 episodes of the Clone Wars.
Wikipedia is kind of iffy though.
Well, he's in the Umbara arc,
Oh god, not that one.
but it definitely is him. It's got the same like arrow on his head.
It's hard to say because he is. Oh no, wait, am I going off of Disney Star? I think I was because that was a game that was released after Disney. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it!
It's a virus.
Help me! Anyway, but
Yeah, Like I know people who I can be friends with people who like Disney stars, but I just personally don't.
I can't be.
You can't be even like cordial.
No, I'm a
Yeah.
gatekeeper. I gotta do what I gotta do.
Well, at that time, I think it comes down to like we can agree on differences, but still work together.
Well, it's just TCW. Disney Star
Yeah.
Wars is Disney Star Wars is anti Star Wars. If you like Disney Star Wars, then there's absolutely no way you actually like Star Wars because of everything that happened. Because Disney Star Wars is just made with a complete hatred for everything George did.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, but maybe that's their only exposure.
Again, if they're willing, I am able to help. Encourage them to embrace real Star Wars, but that has to be their choice to make.
Do, Here's a question: do you think that the EU ending was a blessing in disguise, considering the way quality was going?
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah, that's why I'm fine with it ending because I like stories that have a start and an end.
I mean, for me, I'd rather Star Wars continue forever because I love it so much, but
Yeah, but they would have to just keep going into the future, like past legacy.
I don't see necessarily a problem with that.
Oh no, I'm just saying lots of authors like to use the OG characters and they can't keep bogging down those eras.
Hey, I get that, but I mean, Legacy was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, no, Legacy is cool. I wish they made more novels in that time.
What could have been?
That was a thing in Legacy as well, that the ship that Anakin flies in the Clone Wars movie makes an appearance.
The Twilight.
Uh that model, it was called like the G9 or something.
Oh, the model.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a model, not the actual.
Yeah. But it was like it came from the Clone Wars, so there's another piece of it
But
in
that's a
there.
model, though. A ship model doesn't necessarily completely ruin everything.
I also wanted to bring up the Clone Wars campaign guide. Do you know that from Wizards of the Coast?
I do not know the Wizard Coast or West End game stuff, unfortunately,
Okay.
because I
Well,
don't
that one
own it yet.
that campaign guide blended both MMP and TCW into one.
Okay, never mind. I'm not going to bother with it then.
Yeah, I mean, but you might want to bother with it for the EU information
I'm a stubborn son of a bitch. No.
because it had like art of Captain Rex fighting one of those giant droid walkers from Republic Commando.
Ew. Just like with Anakin, Ahsoka, and Dirge. Ew. I don't want that. Get it out of my sight.
That's fair. But let's say in a hypothetical situation you were forced to live with it being in the same universe, wouldn't you want more things that would connect them,
No.
not build a stronger continuity?
No.
I don't know. I just think if it's going to be in there, then I would like to see them interact with characters from
I
to
don't.
build.
But that's because but that's also because Captain Rex, Ahsoka, and all have bad writing. So there's that. So I hate them on that premise alone.
Yeah, I mean, I think Captain Rex is okay except for the Disney canon.
Yeah, but he replaces Alpha 17.
Yeah, but wasn't Alpha 17? He wasn't really a member of a legion.
He was an ARC trooper. That's why.
Yeah, but he was more independent. He was not one of like the leaders of a squad.
Yeah, but he was still cool.
Oh yeah, I'm not arguing he wasn't cool, but I just don't think he would be like a commanding officer in the 501st.
Well, again, you could have used Apo for that.
Yeah, but does is Rex really that much of a problem?
I still don't like it, but that's me.
Yeah, I think he shows the clones being loyal.
I don't. I just don't care. And honestly, again, we kind of agreed to disagree on that.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of other topics. I don't know if I'm having fun if you are.
Well, it's been okay. outside
Okay.
of the screaming match earlier, but
Oh yeah. I didn't want to. Yeah, I was just trying to talk over what you were saying.
that's nerds for you.
Yeah. I would rather have a nerd fight than a political fight.
True that.
Yeah. Because at least the nerd stuff, we can, at the end of the day, we have disagreements on it, but it's fiction.
I get it.
Yeah. But do you have any, do you know what you're going to be reading next?
I grabbed Star Wars Scourge from the basement, so there's that.
Oh yeah, that's one I've been meaning to get because it's coming up and where I'm reading.
Yeah, I just jump around. I don't have a particular order.
That's fair. So I've, I'm assuming you've read more of the prequel stuff or that era.
I'm not back. I think I may have read some more OT stuff than I have PT stuff.
Oh, cool. I think New Republic is one of the coolest eras, with all the warlords and stuff.
Yeah, that is a definitely fun era.
And I would highly recommend reading X-Wing. It's fantastic.
Assuming once I start getting my hands on those, yes, I have heard nothing but great things about them.
I will tell you, and this is popular opinion for most, but I do not like iJedi. It's,
I've read iJedi.
do you remember it?
I know it was written in first person and had Koran Horn in it.
Yeah, and Corrin like kicks Luke's ass.
I mean, Luke
And
should
like
be.
Corrin is like the pre-Ray
Hmm.
because he's like OP.
Well, Luke is also OP. Is a little OP.
But like Corrin earns it like Ray does by not knowing what the Force is, and then suddenly he can do these insane things.
It's been a while since I've read it, so I don't Remember.
Yeah, because Michael Stackpole, he wrote the first four, and Corrin's a big part. And Corrin never faces like any personal issues that would like. He's always the best at everything he touches.
I'd have to check. So, I mean, that's fair if you don't like it.
Yeah, but just like that, I don't like it, but I consider it having happened.
Well, it did happen.
Yeah, and I don't know. Are there any more comments or?
No, I don't think so. I think we kind of ran it out. Even the chat's very very quiet. So I think this is around the time we can sign off.
All right, yeah, that sounds good to me. I appreciate the conversation. It was lots of fun. I
Anytime.
like talking. I like reasoning and stuff. So
Like I mean, sure, we didn't exactly convince each other one way or another, but it's agree to disagree.
yeah, and at the end of the day, we're EU fans. So
And yeah, absolutely no problem.
all right. So if you ever have a show where you're talking about something, I would love to join. Probably can't do most nights, but
I always do it Friday night at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
okay. All right. Well, thank you for the conversation. Thank you for inviting me. Uh,
Absolutely, no problem.
have a great evening.
You too. See it.
Bye.
Well, guys, if you liked what you saw here today, make sure to like, subscribe, and share the stream. And until next time, always remember to be awesome. Good night, everybody.